Chapter 501. At least 2 level 3 desolation grades. Throwing away the sword in his hand, Gray glanced at Stanley Grinton and the king beast from the corner of his eyes. The man and the beast were in the middle of a battle. Although their opponents were at a disadvantage, it was obvious that the 2 masked men had reached the 3rd level of the desolation level. The white-haired old man used a silver-grade magic weapon and did not rely on his own strength. His specific strength was unknown, which meant that there were at least 2 level 3 desolation grades. It's the Flame Kingdom. Gray did not think that the Nahum family could afford 2 level 3 desolation blood warriors. If they really had such strength, Gray would not have gone to their door and been forced to compensate them. Then it was obvious which force these 3 belonged to. They belonged to the Flame Kingdom. More likely, they belonged to the Flaming Fong, an assassination organization that directly belonged to the Flame Kingdom's royal family. They came. Gray had already expected the assassination from the Flaming Fong. He knew that it would happen, and now it happened. Whoosh! Accompanied by a terrifying whistling sound, a huge blood-red flame column attacked again. It was dozens of meters thick and carried a terrifying heat as it hit Gray. Gray did not take out a new magic weapon from the purple ring. Instead, he let the black mist wrap around his fist. Although there were several pinnacle bronze magic swords in the purple ring, he did not plan to use them. Even pinnacle bronze magic weapons would not be able to withstand more than a few hits from a king-tier attack. No amount of magic weapons would be enough to damage them. Now that his body had been metallized, it was even harder than pinnacle bronze magic weapons. Even the black mist could not damage it. Therefore, he wrapped the black mist around his hand to face the enemy. Whoosh! Gray's right hand was completely wrapped in the black mist and turned into a huge fist that was dozens of meters long. It also brought a strong wind as it met the red flame column. Boom! There was a terrifying explosion. The black mist was instantly destroyed. The blood-red flame wrapped around Gray, and the impact forced Gray to retreat. His defense is still not weakened. Holding the blood-red spear in his hand, the white-haired old man grew anxious. He had already attacked more than 10 times in a row. Even with his 3rd level, desolate level blood power, he had consumed a lot of energy. However, the injuries left on the other party's body could only be considered average and were far from fatal. Initially, he thought that his opponent's strong defense would not last long. However, after exchanging blows with him for more than 10 times, his opponent's defense did not weaken at all. Instead, it was his own blood power that was greatly depleted. Are we going to give up? No, if I miss this chance, I'm afraid I won't have another chance. The thought of giving up appeared in his mind, but he immediately rejected it. He knew that the Flame Kingdom was determined to kill Gray Fergus at all costs, even if they had to sacrifice a silver-ranked mana weapon. If he missed this opportunity, the other party would definitely enter the Purple Moon Kingdom's imperial city and seek protection from the Purple Moon Kingdom's royal family. If that was the case, he would not stand a chance. You must die. His gaze became resolute as he quickly closed in on his opponent to prevent his opponent from escaping. Whoosh! Gray flipped over and got up. The black mist turned into a black river, majestically attacking the white-haired old man. Naturally, he could not escape just like that. If he wanted to escape, he had at least 2 ways. Whether it was using Stanley Grinton's king-level speed or using spatial teleportation, he could easily escape. However, if he escaped, the remaining Earl Fergus and the others would be in trouble. They would definitely become the target of his anger. Moreover, with the strength that the other party had displayed, it was not enough to make him flee in fear. Poof! The white-haired old man waved the blood-red spear in his hand lightly, and a greenish-black wind blade appeared, instantly splitting the black mist in half. Then, the spear pierced through the air towards Gray. A huge greenish-black tornado appeared, swiftly attacking Gray. It covered a large area and was extremely fast, giving Gray no chance to dodge. Boom! Gray's fist was wrapped in black mist, growing to a size of 10 meters. He punched out again. The giant fist formed by the black mist was shattered, and the greenish-black tornado hit Gray's body. Gray was knocked back, and scratches appeared on his body. He was completely at a disadvantage, but Gray did not feel discouraged at all. In the face of a king-level attack, it was normal to be at a disadvantage. It was not embarrassing to not die under a king-level attack. Among the younger generation of the Four Kingdoms, only he could do it. Even Niklos Blaze could not resist a king-level attack without the help of a silver-tier magic weapon. Moreover, he believed that he would be the final victor. As long as his opponent was not king-level, he would not be able to use a silver-tier magic weapon for a long time. Rumble, rumble, rumble. After another dozen or so exchanges, the entire forest was completely destroyed. There were burn marks everywhere, and there were burning flames everywhere. Monster. Although Gray was still at a disadvantage, the white-haired elder had a bad premonition in his heart. Even if one searched the entire history of the Four Kingdoms, there was no one who had not yet become a king-class powerhouse had taken a king-class powerhouse's attack head-on and not died. Moreover, it had been dozens of attacks. His opponent's strong defense made him very uneasy. When his blood power was exhausted, he would be like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Retreat. Although he still had a little less than half of his blood power, the situation was very clear. His opponent was not someone he could kill, even with a silver-tier magic weapon. He decided to retreat. At that moment, two consecutive screams sounded almost at the same time. He looked in the direction of the sounds and could not help but break out in a cold sweat. Of the two companions who came with him, one of them was almost split in half by the silver-masked man. He was lying on the ground, covered in blood. As for the other companion, he was lying in a huge pit. All the bones in his body seemed to have been completely shattered. He was limp, and his body was twisted in an unnatural manner. There was not the slightest movement from him. His two companions, who were at the third level of the desolated tier, were killed in such a short period of time. He did not know that both Stanley Grinton and the King Beast were not weaker than Gray in terms of strength. They were even stronger because their king-level speed was something Gray did not have. Run. With only this thought in mind, the white-haired elder gave up on Gray without hesitation and turned to escape. Although the mission of killing Gray Fergus was extremely important, it looked like it was already impossible to accomplish. When that man and beast arrived, the situation would be even worse. Perhaps even he would die here like his other two companions. Stay! Gray chased after the white-haired elder. In front of him, there were two figures, one big and one small, chasing after the white-haired elder. They had to make him stay no matter what. A silver-level magic weapon, even if it was not a sword, was extremely valuable. They had to get it. So fast. The white-haired elder was extremely fast. He was at the third level of the desolated tier. However, Stanley Grinton and the King Beast were even faster. They were both king level. Soon, the two of them were closing in on the white-haired elder. If we continue like this, we'll be caught. The white-haired elder gritted his teeth and turned around. The blood-red spear in his hand amplified. A huge green-black tornado quickly attacked Stanley Grinton and the King Beast, covering a large area. However, Stanley Grinton and the King Beast were not Gray. They were faster than Gray. Even in the face of a king-level attack, they could dodge it. Stanley Grinton seemed to be stepping on an invisible staircase. He shot up into the sky, dodging the tornado, and continued to chase after the white-haired elder. The King Beast was huge. Even if its speed and strength were on par with Stanley Grinton, it could not walk in the air like Stanley Grinton. However, it stomped hard on the ground, and its huge body shot up dozens of meters into the air. It also flew past the huge tornado and chased after the white-haired old man. Seeing this, the white-haired elder's forehead was covered in cold sweat. He ignored the exhaustion of his blood force and attacked Stanley Grinton and the King Beast. At the same time, he ran at full speed. Bang! The huge King Beast was hit by a huge blood-red flame pillar that could not be dodged in time. It plowed a gully in the ground and retreated. After all, it was impossible to dodge a king-level attack every time. Whoosh! However, Stanley Grinton successfully dodged the attack. He blocked the white-haired elder's path and slashed at him. Clang! The white-haired elder swept out with his spear exploding with king-level power. Stanley Grinton was sent flying, but he was also forced to stop. Bang! Gray, whose speed was not inferior to the white-haired elders, finally caught up. His fist was wrapped in black mist, and he punched at the white-haired elder. Faced with this sudden punch, the white-haired elder did not have time to block or dodge. His back was torn open, and he was sent flying. At this time, the king beast also caught up and punched at the white-haired elder. Bang! The white-haired elder was sent flying again. Faced with 3 king-class experts whose physical bodies were tough enough to injure, and 2 of them were even as fast as king-class experts, the white-haired old man, who was only relying on his silver-gray mana weapon, was instantly surrounded. Even if he exploded with king-level combat power and temporarily sent 1 or 2 of the 3 flying, there was still another one blocking him, making it difficult for him to escape. In the end, the white-haired elder's blood force was completely exhausted. The silver-level magic weapon in his hand was just a weapon with no other power other than its toughness. Pooh! In the end, Gray's fist landed on the white-haired old man's chest. The old man's chest caved in, and several of his bones broke. He spat out a mouthful of blood, his eyes rolled back, and he lost all signs of life. The cloth covering his face fell, and Gray saw the white-haired elder's face behind the cloth. He could not help but show a trace of surprise. Marlowe Sidney. Chapter 502. It's actually him. Marlowe Sidney was the leader of one of the largest mercenary groups in the Purple Moon Kingdom, the Storm Mercenary Group. Gray had met him when he went to Mercenary City. Mercenary City was invaded by the King of Assassins, and the King of Assassins and the King of Mercenaries fought over the fruit of evolution. At that time, Marlowe Sidney was the same as Gray at the auction house. Gray and the others didn't know what the fruit of evolution was. Marlowe Sidney had carefully explained the fruit of evolution to Gray and the others, and the first time Gray heard about the evolution ingredient was from Marlowe Sidney. At that time, Marlowe Sidney had looked kind, but he was actually a member of the Flame Kingdom's Inferno Fong in the Purple Moon Kingdom. The kindness on his face was just a disguise. He's really well hidden. He's actually the leader of the Storm Mercenary Group. Then, it's very likely that the Storm Mercenary Group is a stronghold of the Inferno Fong. A cold light flashed in Gray's eyes. He naturally couldn't let go of the Storm Mercenary Group, which was a stronghold of the Inferno Fong. I was just thinking of looking for some people, and here you are, delivering yourself to me. With a cold smile, Gray squatted down and pressed one hand on Marlowe Sidney's head. The remaining plants in the surroundings emitted green light and completely withered, and Marlowe Sidney was enveloped in green light. After a while, Marlowe Sidney's injuries were completely healed. He opened his eyes and stood up from the ground, respectfully standing beside Gray. It was impossible to tell that he had come to kill Gray not long ago. Gray went to the corpses of the other 2 masked men and used the same resurrection ability. The 2 masked men's injuries were healed and they stood up again, but they were no longer the same people. The battle has stopped. In the basement of the Fergus family's castle, everyone was worried. When they heard that the battle outside had stopped, their hearts couldn't help but skip a beat. The battle had stopped, which meant that the outcome of the battle had been decided. The winner and loser would be revealed soon. Father, well, Gray, Bernal's face was full of worry. Although he trusted Gray's strength and understood Gray's strength, the enemy had clearly come prepared. Thinking of this, he could not help but feel deeply worried. No, Big Brother won't lose. Sarah shook her head resolutely, but there was a trace of worry in the depths of her eyes. Yes, Gray will not lose. Earl Fergus said decisively. Please don't lose. Please don't lose. Although Madame de Milan and Elise were once at odds with Gray, they desperately hoped that Gray would not be the one to lose. Not to mention how the enemy would deal with them if Gray was defeated. Even if the enemy didn't care about small fries like them, the Fergus family would definitely decline after losing Gray. After seeing the prosperity of the Fergus family and the treatment they received from the nobles of the kingdom, they did not want the Fergus family to return to its former glory. All of this was built on the basis that Gray was still alive. If Gray was defeated and died, all of this glory would be far away from the Fergus family. Young Master Gray, young Master Gray. Outside, the joyful voices of the guards and servants sounded. Hearing this, the members of the Fergus family who were hiding in the secret room were filled with excitement. It's Gray. It's Gray who won. They quickly opened the door of the secret room and rushed out. As expected, they saw Gray at the entrance of the secret room. Gray, that's great. Big brother. The members of the Fergus family excitedly came forward. Seeing that Gray was not even injured, let alone heavily injured, they were completely at ease. After reporting his safety to the Fergus family, Gray left the castle and found Marlowe Sidney and the other two who had been placed outside. He had too many things to ask the three of them. He had obtained the ability to revive, but this was the first time he had used it on someone. He didn't know what was different about them after reviving compared to when they were alive, and whether they still had their memories from when they were alive. Gray first issued various orders to the three of them. After confirming that the three of them were indeed under his control, he began to ask, "Do you have any memories from when you were alive?" "My lord, I only have fragmented memories from when I was alive." Marlowe Sidney respectfully replied, "Fragmented memories?" "Yes, my lord. I only have a portion of my memories from when I was alive, and they are fragmented and not connected. It should be the same for the two of them." Marlowe Sidney respectfully replied, "You have memories, but they are fragmented?" Gray supported his chin with one hand and pondered over the reason for this phenomenon. In his opinion, the method of revival should be to use the reverse nurturing ability to repair the physical body, use the corpse controlling ability to achieve absolute control over the physical body, and use the soul ability to use the original soul as a material to create a new soul under control. Through this method of revival, the other party's physical body and soul would be under Gray's control. There were no memories because the soul was new and not the original soul. There were fragmented memories because the soul was created using the original soul as a material, so there would still be some memory fragments. After asking the other two people apart from Marlowe Sidney, he learned of their identities. One of them was in charge of a caravan. Of course, this caravan was also disguised as the Inferno Fawn. All the core members of the caravan were members of the Inferno Fawn. The other person was the leader of a bandit group. Most of the members of the group were also members of the Inferno Fawn. Go back and stabilize your own forces. If you find that you can't stabilize them, kill them. Gray ordered the two of them. Gray planned to control the members of the Inferno Fawn in the three outposts. However, he planned to go to the Storm Mercenary Group first, because the Storm Mercenary Group was the strongest among the three outposts of the Inferno Fawn. He planned to control the Storm Mercenary Group and use them to gather information and search for blood fiends for him. The characteristics of the Metamorphosis ability allowed Gray to possess all kinds of blood fiend abilities. However, it would be difficult for Gray to find a large number of suitable blood fiends by himself. He needed a force like this to search for blood fiends for him. A few days later, Gray and Marlowe Sidney arrived at Mercenary City, where the Storm Mercenary Group was stationed. After arriving here, Gray did not make a move with great fanfare. This was the territory of the Lex family, the family of the king of mercenaries. If the Lex family was alarmed, it would be very troublesome. It would be easy to reveal the true identity of the Storm Mercenary Group, but Gray did not plan to do so. Therefore, he decided to let Marlowe Sidney return to the Storm Mercenary Group and lure them out of Mercenary City. "Leader, did you succeed?" Marlowe Sidney's return immediately alarmed those in the Storm Mercenary Group who knew Marlowe Sidney's objective. In the leader's study, a thin middle-aged man hurriedly asked. He was the vice leader of the Storm Mercenary Group. "We failed. Summon everyone to the meeting room. I have something important to say," Marlowe Sidney said in a deep voice. "Okay, I'll go now." Seeing Marlowe Sidney's serious expression, the middle-aged man did not doubt him and hurriedly summoned all the members of the Inferno Fawn to the meeting room. The mission failed. Gray Fergus is more difficult to deal with than expected. In the meeting room, Marlowe Sidney said with a heavy expression, "Sir, don't you have that weapon in your hands?" Someone asked in shock. "Gray Fergus also has one, and he has two helpers. The three of us did not gain the slightest advantage." Marlowe Sidney said solemnly, "He actually has it too. Why does Gray Fergus have it too?" It's probably a gift from the Purple Moon Kingdom's royal family or a loan. Many people in the meeting room had grave expressions, including the middle-aged man. I've met him before, and my mask fell off during the battle. I don't know if he recognized me. When Marlowe Sidney saw everyone's serious expression, he continued to speak. To avoid any accidents, I'm prepared to take you out of Mercenary City on the pretext of accepting a mission. We'll make plans after determining whether the Storm Mercenary Group has been targeted. Yes, we'll get ready. Knowing that they might have been targeted, these people naturally did not disagree. After some preparations, they quickly left Mercenary City under Marlowe Sidney's lead and entered a large forest. Sir, this matter needs to be reported to the organization as soon as possible. The middle-aged man reminded Marlowe Sidney as he walked up to him. That's reasonable. Marlowe Sidney looked around and confirmed that they were dozens of miles away from Mercenary City. He suddenly took out a dagger from his arm and quickly stabbed it into the middle-aged man's heart. The middle-aged man, who was at the first stage of the Desolate stage, was killed before he could even react. Sir Marlowe Sidney, the sudden turn of events shocked everyone. They did not understand why Marlowe Sidney would suddenly attack the vice-captain. I've already investigated. He betrayed the organization and leaked the information to the Purple Moon Kingdom's royal family. Marlowe Sidney calmly said, "What? Grey Fergus is prepared and has a silver magic weapon? It's because of Gao Defoe's betrayal? Gao Defoe is a traitor?" Some people believed it, some were skeptical, and some retreated far away, preparing to escape. At this moment, Grey appeared. With a wave of his hand, Stanley Grinton and King Beast appeared and surrounded everyone with Marlowe Sidney. "Grey Fergus, he's Grey Fergus. Marlowe Sidney is the traitor." Someone recognized Grey and immediately understood that Marlowe Sidney was the real traitor. Everyone's expression changed as they fled in all directions. Unfortunately, they were facing 4 third-stage Desolate stage existences. 2 of them had the speed of a king, and among them, the strongest was the middle-aged man who had been at the Desolate stage, but he had been killed by a sneak attack. This was a battle without any surprises. Soon, everyone was killed, and then they stood up with their injuries healed. However, at this time, their souls were no longer the same as before. Chapter 503. After ordering the Storm Mercenary Group to search for traces of Ice-type King-level blood fiends, Grey ordered them to return to Mercenary City, while he rushed to the other 2 strongholds of the Blaze Fawn. A few days later, Grey returned to the Fergus family. However, he did not come back alone. Instead, he came back with dozens of people. "Grey, what's wrong with these people?" Earl Fergus and Bernal asked in surprise. Although they didn't know the exact strength of these people, among these people, there were quite a number of people who gave them a sense of danger. A few of them even gave them a creepy feeling. It was obvious that the strength of these dozens of people was not simple. "I hired them to be in charge of the castle's daily defense," Grey explained. "Can you guarantee their loyalty?" Earl Fergus asked in a low voice as he pulled Grey aside. He was happy that there was a group of experts in the castle all of a sudden. If there were such experts at Elise's wedding, he would not have been so worried. However, many of these people were obviously very strong. Would such experts really be loyal to the Fergus family? There is absolutely no problem in terms of loyalty. I will pay them. You can make the arrangements without worry. Grey nodded affirmatively. The life and death of a person controlled by the resurrection ability was in his hands. They were definitely more loyal than people who had been trained since young. Their loyalty could definitely be guaranteed. These people were transferred from the 3 strongholds of the Blaze Fawn by Grey. One of them was a wild blood warrior who was at the first level of the Desolation level. There were 3 barbarian blood warriors, 2 of whom were at the first level of the barbarian level, and 1 of whom was at the second level of the barbarian level. Although Grey had taken control of the 3 strongholds of the Blaze Fawn, including the Storm Mercenary Group, he did not plan to cut off their relationship with the Blaze Fawn. He wanted to make these 3 strongholds his spies in the Blaze Fawn, so he only transferred some people over. These people were all developed in the Purple Moon Kingdom from the 3 strongholds. Even the Blaze Fawn did not know their identities, so he could use them without worry. That's good. Seeing how confident Gray was, Earl Fergus knew that Gray must be confident. The forest where you usually cultivate has been burned down. We're going to find a new forest near the castle to build a wooden house for your cultivation. Which forest do you think is suitable? Bernal asked Gray after seeing that the matter of the dozens of people had been settled. There's no need to find a new forest. Just build the wooden house in the original location. As for the concealment, I'll take care of it. Gray shook his head. There was a tunnel in Fergus Castle that led directly to the original forest. If they destroyed it and dug it up again, it would be a big project. As for the concealment, he had a solution. The next day, Gray led more than 10 former members of the Blazing Tooth, including the desolate Blood Warrior, to a forest full of burn marks. The forest, which was originally thousands of meters long, was now pitch black. Lava could be seen in many places. Attack! Yes, sir. Following Gray's orders, the dozen people began to move. First, the people with earth elemental abilities used their abilities to turn over the soil and bury all the burn marks. After that, those with plant abilities scattered the seeds. Using their plant abilities, one tree after another began to grow on the barren ground at a speed visible to the naked eye. Among them, the desolate Blood Warrior had the most terrifying effect. Every time he used it, he could turn an area of 1 to 200 meters into a forest. Although his elemental ability was not plant elemental, he had a pinnacle bronze elemental magic weapon with plant elemental abilities. With the power of a desolate rank, its power was naturally terrifying. In just 2 days, the forest that had been burned down was once again covered by trees. Even the wooden house was built. Using the plant elemental ability, the entire wooden house was a single tree. All that was needed was bedding, cupboards, and a series of other necessities. Then they could move in. It only took 2 days to create a forest that extends for thousands of meters. Seeing the forest appear in just 2 days, Bernal was amazed. Sarah, Caroline, and the rest were also amazed. They have nothing to do, so they can make use of it. Gray said with a smile. It only took 2 days to create a forest that was thousands of meters long. The convenience of the Blood Warriors in construction was undeniable. However, only a few factions could do such a thing. After all, in the entire process, more than 10 Blood Warriors were used, and one of them was even a desolate Blood Warrior. Only Gray would let the desolate Blood Warriors do construction. The other factions all supported the existence of the desolate rank, so why would they let them do such menial work? This was also the reason why the construction speed of this world was still very slow, even though it had various magical abilities that could accelerate construction by 10 or even 100 times. Were the strength of the strongest few people? Earl Fergus asked after some hesitation. 3 desolate Blood Warriors and 3 desolate Blood Warriors. In the hall, the sound of people gasping could be heard. Caroline covered her red lips to hide her surprise. Sarah opened her eyes wide without blinking. Daniela Carlyle, the wife of the new member of the Fergus family, Elise, was shocked. Did she hear wrongly? There were desolate Blood Warriors among them. Although they had guessed that there were many strong people among the 100 people, they did not expect them to be so strong. Not only were there 3 desolate Blood Warriors, but there were also 3 desolate Blood Warriors. Recently, they had come into contact with many nobles of the kingdom and had a general understanding of the nobles' power. They naturally understood what a desolate Blood Warrior and 3 desolate Blood Warriors meant. To put it bluntly, with the addition of this power, the Fergus family would not be weaker than any Marquis family. Gray smiled. He still had 3 third-level desolated level existences under his control. If he were to say it out loud, everyone would be shocked. Suddenly, Gray's expression changed slightly. After greeting everyone, he left the hall and went to an empty area. Whoosh! The next moment, his figure disappeared and reappeared in a forest thousands of miles away. He had used spatial teleportation. He did not stop there. He used spatial teleportation again and again. When he reappeared, he was in a basement. In Mercenary City, in the Storm Mercenary Group's base, a man in a black cloak appeared in the leader's study. I really didn't expect that even with a silver grade weapon, I still couldn't kill him, and even lost my silver grade weapon. When they found out about this, the three leaders were very angry. The man in the black cloak said in a hoarse voice, "We've disappointed the organization." Marlowe Sidney smiled bitterly. I didn't expect him to have a silver-ranked demonic weapon and two helpers whose bodies are comparable to king-tier blood fiends. If we hadn't used the silver-ranked demonic weapon as bait, the three of us might have died there. The organization has decided that the resources of the three strongholds will be halved for the next 3 years as punishment. The man in the black cloak said in a hoarse voice, "We have let the organization down. We accept the punishment," Marlowe Sidney said with a bitter face. The man in the black cloak nodded and melded into the shadows, sneaking out of the study. The moment he sneaked out of the study, a blood-red spear with black fog around its tip pierced towards him. Pooh! Facing this swift spear, even with his desolate-level strength, he was unable to dodge in time. The cloaked man's heart was pierced. His eyes were filled with shock and astonishment as his body fell to the ground. Creak! Marlowe Sidney walked out and came before Gray, bowing respectfully to Gray. "Lord Gray, this is the person in charge of contacting the three of us in the Ivory organization." Gray nodded. Because Marlowe Sidney and the others had been resurrected by him, he could give orders to them in his mind, and Marlowe Sidney and the others could give him feedback in their minds. Of course, the distance could not be too far. If it was too far, the feedback of the orders and information could not be completed. He could only roughly sense the other party's call. Earlier, when he was in the living room, he had sensed Marlowe Sidney's call, so he had immediately used spatial teleportation to rush over. He sized up the cloaked man. This was a thin old man. Grabbing him with one hand, Gray's figure disappeared and reappeared in a forest. Moving slightly away from the teleportation point, he used his resurrection ability to resurrect the thin old man. After some questioning, Gray learned of the thin old man's identity. His name was Barker Lance, and he was a desolate level rank 1. Because he was good at concealment, he had become the liaison between the Flame Kingdom and the Purple Moon Kingdom. The person in charge of my assassination is actually the King of Assassins. Gray had a strange expression. Because of the tragedy of the Sidney family, Gray had promised the three siblings that if he had the ability, he would kill the King of Assassins to avenge the old Marquis and the others. However, he had not expected that before he had the ability to make a move against the King of Assassins, he had been targeted by the King of Assassins and had already been assassinated. The assassination this time was definitely dangerous. A silver-grade magic weapon could unleash the combat power of a regent, if he had not reached the second level of the Desolation level first, which gave him a terrifying defense that even a regent would not be able to damage. He would have been severely injured when he was ambushed. The King of Assassins is actually in charge of me. Gray felt a sense of danger. The King of Assassins was not a simple King-class elite. He was a King-class elite who had undergone a metamorphosis. He was much stronger than the average King-class elite. Fortunately, it is difficult for a regent to sneak into the Purple Moon Kingdom without alerting the Purple Moon Kingdom's royal family. Otherwise, I would have a hide in the Purple Moon Kingdom's imperial city. This time, I made the right choice by using the 3 ivory strongholds as spies. The 3 strongholds were the Blaze Tooth's intelligence network in the Purple Moon Kingdom. With these 3 strongholds under his control, he would definitely be able to obtain information about the Blaze Tooth's actions. He would be safer and could even use this information to plot against the Blaze Tooth. Chapter 504. The matter of the Blaze Fong's assassination had come to an end, and there shouldn't be any more assassinations from the Blaze Fong for a short period of time. Gray stayed in the Fergus family for a few days before setting off for the capital. In order to increase the power of his 3 mixed abilities to the level of a king, he had to upgrade his Fire Bloodline and Ice Bloodline to the king level. The Storm Mercenary Group was still searching for ice-attributed king-level blood fiends, and it would take them a long time. However, the blood of a fire-attributed king-level blood fiend was easy to obtain. Therefore, Gray decided to obtain the blood of a fire-attributed king-level blood fiend. Because he had been to the royal capital before, teleportation points had been set up along the way. Gray quickly teleported to the vicinity of the royal capital and then hurried to the royal capital by flying. Gray stopped at the gate of the imperial city and walked in. As the political and economic center of the Purple Moon Kingdom, the prosperity of the imperial city was obvious. There was an endless stream of caravans going in and out of the city gate. After hiring a carriage, Gray went to one of Francis' residences in the imperial city. The blood skill that Francis practiced was the Purple Flame Beast Blood skill. You should have the blood of a king-level Purple Flame Beast Blood skill. After notifying Francis, Gray was welcomed into the residence. The purchase of the blood of a king-level Purple Flame Beast Blood skill went smoothly. Francis only took 1,000,000 gold coins as a token. He was going to give it to Gray as a gift, but Gray didn't accept it. Being able to buy the blood of a king-level Purple Flame Beast Blood skill was already taking care of him. Many people couldn't buy it even if they had the money. If Francis didn't even take the money, he would be too embarrassed to accept it. You should stay a few more days in the imperial city this time, Francis said in the garden pavilion. That's my plan. Now that I've been targeted by the Blaze Fong, I'm planning to lie low in the imperial city for a while. Gray joked. The Blaze Fong had temporarily given up on assassinating Gray. Gray knew this very well. Therefore, this sentence was more of a joke than anything else. The Flame Kingdom is too arrogant. Hearing Gray's words, Francis frowned. Naturally, he knew about the assassination attempt on Gray. Gray had even reported it to the royal family in the form of a letter. Of course, in reality, the royal family had already received the news before Gray reported it to them. Originally, the royal family had planned to send a king-class elite to bring Gray to the capital to protect him. The royal family understood Gray's potential, and they knew that the Inferno Teeth had their eyes on him. Naturally, the royal family would provide protection to Gray. However, after reading Gray's letter, he dismissed the idea. The traces of the battle were too obvious. One could see the scale of the battle at a glance. Even if Gray wanted to hide it, it was difficult to do so. Therefore, Gray told the truth about most of the battle. He only chose to hide the situation of Marlowe Sidney and the other two. The parts that he told the truth about included the defense of a king-class elite. After all, this was the key to him being able to block the attack of a silver weapon. Knowing that Gray had such a defense, the royal family dismissed the idea of bringing Gray to the capital. With such a defense, even a king-class elite would have to spend a lot of time attacking Gray. Under the situation where the Flame Kingdom's king-class elites were monitored and could not sneak into the Purple Moon Kingdom, Gray's safety was not to be worried. Speaking of which, you've profited from a disaster this time. You actually got a silver weapon. What kind of weapon is it? Francis had a slightly envious look on his face. Silver weapons were too rare. Even as the successor of the Purple Moon Kingdom, he did not have a real silver weapon. The last time he went to the Endless Ice Field, he had a silver weapon that the royal family had temporarily lent to him for self-defense. After returning to the capital, he had already put it back in the royal family's treasury. It's a spear-type weapon. A crimson spear appeared in Gray's hand. Its color was so dark that it looked as if it had been dyed in fresh blood. The long handle was like two snakes entangled together, and the spearhead was like the fangs of a venomous snake. A chilling, murderous intent that was so terrifying that it made one's hair stand on end seeped out from the spearhead. It made one's hair stand on end. It really is a silver weapon. Francis reached out and took it. After examining it carefully, he returned it to Grimm. His eyes were filled with envy, but it was very pure. He did not have any thoughts of possessing it. As the successor of a kingdom, the entire kingdom would be his in the future. If he did not even have this much magnanimity, then he would not have been chosen as the successor. After leaving Francis's mansion, Gray first visited Zaloyan and the other two who were staying in the palace. After that, he went to Sophia's mansion. Having been here a few times, the servants of the mansion all recognized Gray. Under the respectful guidance of the servants, Gray was led to a living room. Not long after, Sophia arrived. Looks like you didn't lose an arm or a leg. Sizing up Gray, Sophia had a smile in her eyes as she teased him. Then I'll have to disappoint you. I'm not good at anything except defense. Gray shrugged. Sophia rolled her eyes and gracefully sat across from Gray. Because she was at home, she wore a blue skirt that ended at her knees, revealing two slender white legs. Her long purple hair was spread out, with two strands on each side of her chest. She looked fresh and natural. Could it be that you were frightened and came to the imperial city to seek protection from the royal family? How are you so smart? You even guessed it. It's a pity that you just arrived at the imperial city and don't even have a place to stay. Gray put on a pitiful look. Then I'll kindly take you in. Sophia pursed her lips and smiled. For the next few days, Gray stayed in Sophia's mansion and enjoyed the treatment of a member of the royal family. Although Gray was never stingy with his own lifestyle, it was obviously inferior to that of a member of the royal family. The staple of every meal was basically the flesh of a desolate-level blood fiend. Among the side dishes, there were magic fruits and vegetables that could increase one's strength. The drinks were made from the milk of high-grade blood fiends. Under such a diet for a long time, it was difficult not to increase one's strength. It was no wonder that there were so many experts in the royal family. However, without the corresponding foundation, it was impossible to maintain such a diet for a long time, no matter how much money one had. The royal family was able to do so because they had formed a complete supply chain, and there would not be a situation where one link was missing. This was obviously something that ordinary forces could not achieve. So that fox-type blood fiend is called a ghost fox. Shamelessly staying in Sophia's mansion, Gray naturally did not do so to make a living. Diets that could increase one's strength needed to be consumed over a long period of time. There would not be much effect in a short period of time. His real goal was the precious books in Sophia's library. For someone like him who had the ability to transform, there was never too much knowledge about blood fiends. Only with a rich knowledge of blood fiends could he choose the most suitable blood fiend for his transformation. From Sophia's book collection, he found a description of a blood beast that was almost exactly the same as the fox-type blood beast he had hunted last time. He was almost certain that the fox-type blood beast he had hunted last time was a specter ghost fox. In the evening, in the palace of the Purple Moon Kingdom, a masked figure dressed in black climbed over the tall walls of the palace and silently landed within the walls. A pair of palace guards on patrol arrived. His figure flashed and hid in a corner where the guards could not see him. The speed he displayed was at least that of a king-level warrior. As the most important palace of the Purple Moon Kingdom, the patrols and hidden sentries were naturally very dense. Together, they covered the entire palace without any blind spots. However, this black figure relied on his king-level speed to avoid the patrols and hidden sentries. He passed through one palace after another and sneaked into the depths of the palace. Finally, he arrived at the deepest part of the palace. Arriving here, one of the earthy yellow metal rings on his hand was activated and a completely undetectable wave spread out. Then, in his eyes, the entire terrain of the depths of the palace became transparent, and the entire structure was transmitted into his mind in a three-dimensional image. Where were the rooms? Where were the corridors? Where were the gardens? Everything was directly reflected in his mind. He went straight to a seemingly ordinary room. After searching the room for a while, a soft sound was heard. The originally seamless wall of the room slowly sank, revealing a staircase that led downwards. Following the staircase, a long passageway appeared in front of him. When he arrived here, a white ring on his hand was activated. A layer of white light spread out with him as the center. Then, he followed the passageway forward. Originally, as a secret room of the royal family, there should have been rune mechanisms installed. However, along the way, he did not trigger any. It was as if all the rune mechanisms had been shut down. Finally, a stone door with beautiful carvings appeared in front of him. His eyes revealed a hint of joy as he pushed the stone door open. Using the white light that enveloped him, he saw what was behind the stone door. What entered his eyes was a dazzling array of treasures. There were mountains of magic coins, various kinds of gems, precious magic weapons, precious rune items. Suddenly, his expression changed, and he quickly retreated. At this moment, a purple pillar of flame suddenly shot out from the secret room and hit his body. The purple flame lit up the secret room. A figure appeared in the secret room. It was one of the king stage masters of the Purple Moon Kingdom's royal family. Boom! A terrifying sound suddenly rang out in the imperial city. Gray and Sophia, who had already fallen asleep, were shocked. They quickly got up, put on their clothes, and walked out of the room. What's going on? When Gray and Sophia met, both of their faces were filled with bewilderment. The commotion just now was clearly the commotion caused by a battle between kings. Boom! Another loud sound was heard. Then they saw a purple pillar of flame shoot up into the sky like a volcanic eruption. Vaguely, there seemed to be a figure in the purple pillar of flame. Chapter 505. Poof! From the purple flames, a human figure rushed out and quickly rushed out of the imperial city. In the imperial palace, several figures stepped into the void and chased after the figure. As they chased, they attacked the figure. Terrifying purple light beams bloomed in the sky one after another. They were dazzling and eye-catching. The power of each attack was at the king level. Even though they bloomed in the sky, it was inevitable that the terrifying shockwaves would spread to the ground. Large swathes of buildings in the imperial city were about to be blown away by the shockwaves. At this moment, yellow rays of light shot up into the sky from all over the royal capital. They turned into a huge runic array that welcomed the shockwaves that were spreading to the ground and neutralized the power of the shockwaves. At the same time, on the surrounding walls of the imperial city, a huge hemispherical yellow light shield appeared and enveloped the entire imperial city. Boom! 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 The battle in the sky was extremely intense. After a few rounds of fighting, the battlefield approached the yellow light shield. Whoosh! In the sky, the besieged figure quickly rushed toward the yellow light shield. The king-level powerhouses of the Purple Moon Kingdom who were besieging him saw this and knew that things were not going well. The yellow light shield naturally had the effect of trapping the enemy inside. However, since the enemy dared to rush toward the yellow light shield, he must have some kind of confidence. Sure enough, just as the enemy was about to reach the yellow light shield, his body suddenly emitted a white light. Then he passed through the yellow light shield and quickly rushed out of the imperial city. The king-level powerhouses of the Purple Moon Kingdom were blocked by the yellow light shield and could only watch as the enemy escaped. When the yellow light shield was lifted, the enemy's figure had already disappeared without a trace. He actually escaped. Gray was shocked. The enemy had actually managed to escape under the siege of several king-level powerhouses. This battle record was too impressive. Although it was because he had the means to pass through the imperial city's barrier, the fact that he could resist the siege of several king-level powerhouses showed that the enemy was extraordinary. This was definitely not an ordinary king-level powerhouse. Whoosh! Sophia looked worried as she ran towards the palace. Gray followed closely behind. Arriving at the palace, the two met Francis, Hylia, and some other nobles who were currently in the capital, who were also rushing towards the palace. After being notified, the group quickly met the current king. It was a middle-aged man with a crown on his head. He had a dignified aura about him, but his real age should be slightly older. The reason why he looked young was because he was already a king-level cultivator. "Father, is it a king-level expert from the Flame Kingdom?" Francis asked with a sigh of relief after learning that there were no casualties in the palace. Although he, Sophia, and Hylia also had residences in the palace, they rarely stayed there after reaching adulthood and spent most of their time in their own residences in the imperial city. "I don't think so." The king of the Purple Moon Kingdom shook his head. This person's blood fiend ability doesn't seem to belong to the Flame Kingdom's blood arts. If it's not the Flame Kingdom, could it be? Hylia looked surprised. Among the 4 kingdoms, other than the Flame Kingdom, it could only be the Scarlet Kingdom and the Jewel Kingdom. No, this person probably doesn't belong to the 4 kingdoms. Understanding Hylia's thoughts, the king of the Purple Moon Kingdom shook his head. A force that doesn't belong to the 4 kingdoms? Hearing this judgment, the expressions of Gray and the others changed slightly. Although the 4 kingdoms were powerful, not all king-level powerhouses belong to the 4 kingdoms. There were also individual king-level powerhouses who wandered outside the four kingdoms. The King of Mercenaries was one. The King of Assassins before joining the Flame Kingdom was another, and there were a few others. These people were scattered in the four kingdoms, but they were estranged from the four kingdoms. Generally speaking, the four kingdoms adopted a laissez-faire attitude towards such king-level powerhouses. As long as they did not exceed the limit of tolerance, they would let them be. After all, if a king-level powerhouse was forced into a corner and wantonly destroyed things, the consequences would be very serious. These wandering king-level powerhouses also knew that the strength of the four kingdoms was not something they could contend with, so they basically had a sense of propriety. However, they did not know why they suddenly infiltrated the palace of the Purple Moon Kingdom. Was there something that attracted them? It was getting late. Knowing that there were no casualties in the palace, Gray and the others did not stay long in the palace and left. 2 days later, at Francis's invitation, Gray and Sophia came to Francis's residence. In addition to the two of them, Zaloyan and the others were also invited. The person who infiltrated the palace is not simple, Francis said with a grave expression. Not simple? Everyone looked at him curiously. It was not simple for a king-level powerhouse to infiltrate the palace, but they knew that Francis was not referring to a king-level powerhouse infiltrating the palace. The king-level warrior who infiltrated the palace should be in the first metamorphosis stage, but his defense is extremely terrifying. In the battle that night, even a second metamorphosis king-level powerhouse's attack could not harm him, Francis explained. That was not the case. A first metamorphosis stage. His defense is so strong that even a second metamorphosis king-level powerhouse could not harm him. Everyone was shocked. Then, they all looked at Gray with strange expressions. Even Gray's own face showed a strange expression. His defense was several levels higher than his cultivation level. This person's characteristics were very similar to his own. Of course, he is still different from Gray. According to the observations of the royal family's powerhouse who fought with him, during the battle, his body did not metallize. His strong defense should be a pure physical ability. Seeing that everyone was looking at Gray, Francis could not help but smile. That person was definitely not Gray. After all, when the other party was fighting with the royal family's king-level powerhouse, Gray was with Sophia. Moreover, Gray was not even a king-level powerhouse, let alone a first metamorphosis stage. Do you know what kind of blood technique he cultivated? Gray asked with great interest. He was a first-tier king-level powerhouse, but his defense was strong enough to make a second-tier king-level powerhouse helpless. If this was done with blood technique, then the blood technique that the other party cultivated must have an extremely strong defense. If he could obtain the blood of a blood fiend, Gray was confident that his defense would be able to increase by 1 or 2 levels. The type of blood technique is wind type. However, after searching through the royal family's library, we did not find a blood fiend sequence that matches this characteristic. Francis shook his head. Moreover, this is unusual not only because of his strong defense, but also because on the same night that the Purple Moon Kingdom was invaded, the Gem Kingdom, Crimson Kingdom, and Inferno Kingdom were also invaded. They were invaded as well. Gray and the others widened their eyes. They were completely shocked by this news. The Purple Moon Kingdom, Crimson Kingdom, Gem Kingdom, and Inferno Kingdom were also invaded, and almost at the same time. The amount of information in this was too much. To attack all 4 kingdoms at the same time meant that there were at least 4 king-level powerhouses among the attackers. When did such a powerful force appear outside of the 4 kingdoms, with at least 4 king-level powerhouses? Moreover, this person was too bold. How much courage did it take to go against all 4 kingdoms at the same time? Francis continued. There were a total of 4 attackers, and we don't know if they had other companions. However, although the blood techniques that the 4 attackers cultivated were different, they all had one thing in common. What is it? Zaloyan asked in surprise. They all have a defense that far surpasses their peers. Francis said in a low voice. They all have a defense that far surpasses their peers. Everyone was astonished. If there was one person who had a defense that far surpassed his peers, it could be explained as a special blood technique. However, The blood techniques that the four of them cultivated were different, yet all of them had a defense that far surpassed their peers. This was very strange. The strong defense shouldn't be caused by blood techniques, but by some kind of magic potion. This force must have some kind of magic potion that can strengthen the physical body. Sophia's eyes flickered slightly. That's the only possibility now. Francis nodded. The four of them have strengthened their physical bodies through magic potions. This force is definitely not a loose organization formed in a short time. It must have existed for a long time. Hylia frowned. Such a powerful force. Didn't we find any traces of them before this? Gray looked puzzled. No, not at all. If they didn't take the initiative to expose themselves, I don't know when we would know of the existence of such a force. Francis shook his head and then said with a solemn expression, they took the initiative to expose themselves this time. I'm afraid they already have the confidence to protest against our four kingdoms. A force that can protest as an equal to the four kingdoms. The fifth force? Everyone's expression was solemn as they all felt the seriousness of the matter. At present, the Flame Kingdom, the Purple Moon Kingdom, the Crimson Kingdom, and the Gem Kingdom were in some kind of balance. The sudden appearance of the fifth force would inevitably break this balance, and a single mistake could lead to an upheaval at any time. A force that didn't have any traces before. Thinking of this force and the super-large runic matrices that were drawn all over the four kingdoms on the map, Gray had a bold guess in his heart. Could this force not be a force of this world at all? According to Gray's conjecture, the huge runic matrix was a runic matrix with the ability to repair. Moreover, the level of the magic weapon that it repaired seemed to have reached the final stage and was about to be completed. Under such circumstances, the force that set up this super-large runic matrix should have sent someone to retrieve this magic weapon of unknown level. The sudden appearance of this force that attacked the four kingdoms without any trace before this could be said to be very consistent. He could not help but suspect that this force that suddenly appeared was the force that set up the super-large runic matrix. Chapter 506. But if it's really the same force that came back, why did they only send king-level people? To be able to set up such a huge runic matrix, that force must have been powerful. It must have been stronger than the Empire. Even the Empire had magic light level powerhouses, let alone that force. That weapon of unknown grade must be extremely important, but only a few king-level people were sent to retrieve it. This point was extremely inconsistent. However, although it did not seem like the force that left behind the huge runic matrix, it was very likely that it was an external force. After organizing his thoughts, Gray asked, is it possible that it's a force that doesn't belong to our world? A force that doesn't belong to our world? The people present were not simple people. They had more or less come into contact with some of the secrets of this world. They knew that there were other worlds and humans outside of this world. When they heard Gray's words, they could not help but fall into deep thought. Indeed, this world had appeared too suddenly. There were no signs before this, as if it had suddenly appeared. If it came from another world, it was very likely. It shouldn't be. With their king-level strength, it's impossible for them to break through the world barrier. Francis shook his head. As a direct descendant of the royal family and the successor to the throne, he knew the secrets of this world far better than Gray and the others. World barrier? What's that? Other than Sophia and Cilia, who should have known, Gray and the others looked at Francis curiously. Although he knew about the existence of other worlds, it was only to this extent. He had never heard of a world barrier. You know that our world is not the only world. There are other worlds, and between our world and the other worlds, there's a natural barrier. If you want to travel between the two worlds, you have to break this barrier to pass. Francis said, with their king-level strength, it's impossible for them to break through the world barrier. If they could, many king-level powerhouses would not have been trapped in this world for thousands of years. There's actually such a thing as a world barrier. Gray and the others were greatly shocked. It turned out that they were all caged beasts that had been trapped in a huge cage since birth. Is this the origin of the caged land? Gray thought back to the few lines of words left behind by the Purple Thunder King before his death, and finally understood the origin of the term caged land. It was as if the four kingdoms were locked in a giant box. If one wanted to leave this world, they had to have the power to break through the walls of the box. Obviously, breaking through this box was impossible for a king-class fighter. Your Highness Francis, how strong must one be to break the world barrier? A green-haired young man asked in surprise. He was one of the more outstanding descendants of Duke Addison's branch family. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been invited here. It's at least magic light grade. Of course, this is just the speculation of the royal family of the Purple Moon Kingdom. After all, no one has reached magic light grade in the past 1,000 years, so naturally, there's no way to verify it. Francis said, "Magic light? And it's at least?" Many people had complicated expressions on their faces. With their potential, it was already extremely difficult for them to become a king, let alone a magic light grade existence. They were destined to be trapped in this caged land for the rest of their lives. Even Gray couldn't help but feel pressured. There was clearly a more magnificent world out there, but he was naturally unwilling to be trapped in such a place. However, the power of a magic light grade was indeed an extremely huge chasm. Even he didn't dare to say that he could easily achieve it. In the past 1,000 years, there had been no magic light grade powerhouse. There was definitely a reason for this. Originally, he had thought that the rarity of evolution herbs limited the number of powerhouses of this grade. However, after learning that there were thrice metamorphosed kings in the four kingdoms, he changed his mind. The rarity of evolution herbs was definitely one of the reasons, but it definitely wasn't the main reason. In the past 1,000 years, although there weren't many thrice metamorphosed kings in the four kingdoms, there were still quite a few. With so many kings, could it be that none of them had successfully upgraded their bloodline to the magic light grade? In Gray's opinion, there should be such an existence. However, such an existence was stuck in the realm of thrice metamorphosed for some other reason, unable to break through. What exactly is the reason why thrice metamorphosed kings are unable to break through to the magic light grade? Gray pondered in his heart. He couldn't help but think of the gigantic runic matrix that spanned across the four kingdoms. This was the biggest anomaly in this world. Could the inability to break through to the magic light grade have something to do with this gigantic runic matrix? It was entirely possible that such a gigantic runic matrix had other functions other than repairing magical weapons. With such a restriction, I'm afraid it'll be very difficult for me to upgrade to the magic light grade. Although Gray could consume the blood of magic light grade blood fiends to upgrade his bloodline to the magic light grade, he would inevitably be affected by the same invisible restriction as the other kings. He wouldn't be able to upgrade to the magic light grade. He didn't think that he would be an exception, the only one who could upgrade to the magic light grade. The only fortunate thing is that I don't need to upgrade to the magic light grade in order to possess magic light grade battle prowess. The ability to metamorphose didn't just give Gray a high-grade bloodline. At the same time, it also gave him a hybrid ability, allowing him to possess destructive power that far exceeded those of his level. With this hybrid ability, he should be able to upgrade his battle prowess to the magic light grade while he was still a king. He should have the ability to break through the world barrier. After staying at Francis Mansion for half a day, Gray and the others left. Every piece of news they heard today was shocking. There were at least 4 kings, and they had potions that strengthened the physical body. They were the 5th major power hidden in the dark. The world barrier that existed between the worlds that even kings couldn't break through. Every piece of news, if spread to the outside world, was enough to shake the 4 kingdoms. "Can you introduce me to the royal family's potion master?" In the carriage, Gray asked Sophia. "You want to meet the royal family's potion master? Do you want to make some magical potions?" Sophia looked at Gray in surprise. She didn't think that Gray would want to meet a potion master. "No, I obtained a batch of potions from the Empire, but I don't know their specific uses, so I want to ask the royal family's potion master to help me identify them." Gray explained. After he obtained the batch of potions from the Half Moon Castle, he had asked Master Tulu, who lived in the Fergus family, to identify them. Unfortunately, although Master Tulu was a potion master, he didn't know much about potions from the Empire. He could only identify a few potions, but there were still many potions that he couldn't identify. The carriage turned and headed towards the palace. Finally, under Sophia's lead, Gray saw a chubby old man wearing a gold-trimmed alchemist robe. This is Master Arnold. Among the royal family's potion masters, he has done a lot of research on potions from the Empire. Master Arnold, this is Count Gray. He has some potions from the Empire that he wants you to help identify. Sophia introduced the two to each other. No problem. This old man can't guarantee anything else, but he has done some research on potions from the Empire. Hearing Sophia's introduction to Gray, Master Arnold's chubby face twitched. He had naturally heard of Gray. He also knew that although Gray was only a count, his status wasn't any lower than that of a duke's family. Most importantly, he was highly valued by the royal family. The royal family believed that he was one of the people most likely to break through to the king rank. He naturally didn't dare to neglect such a person and replied politely, "Thank you for your trouble, Master Arnold." Gray was naturally polite. He wasn't the kind of person who used his status to bully others. Furthermore, he had a favor to ask of Master Arnold, so it was only right for him to be polite. Under Master Arnold's lead, Gray and Sophia came to a potion room with a long table. It should be a room used for refining potions. To actually use adamantine as a container, the value of these potions shouldn't be low. Master Arnold was slightly surprised when he saw the potions that Gray had placed on the long table. "Master Arnold, what kind of material is this adamantine?" Gray asked curiously. "This is a metal that's often used to preserve precious magic potions. It's the essence extracted from gold, so it's called adamantine." Master Arnold explained briefly before picking up the potions and identifying them for Gray. "Hunter's Potion. This is a potion made from the blood of the desolate level blood beast, the desolate demonic dog, and some other medicinal ingredients. After consuming it, one will have the same sense of smell as the desolate demonic dog for a period of time. That's why it's called the Hunter's Potion." Spirit Burning Potion. This is a potion that increases one's strength for a short period of time at the cost of burning one's blood energy. Even if it's a king rank expert, his battle prowess will increase by 1 level in a short period of time. However, consuming this potion will cause more damage to the body. It will take at least 1 to 2 months to recover. During this time, one can't use the abilities of a blood beast. Master Arnold lived up to his name as a master who had done a lot of research on potions during the Empire. He basically recognized all the potions that Gray had taken out, except for a few potions with rather strange names that he couldn't identify. Even so, they were of great help to Gray. Just the potions that Master Arnold had identified were already extremely valuable. The effects involved many aspects. It was important to increase one's strength for a short period of time to protect one's life. It was useful to increase one's sense of smell to search for enemies for a short period of time. There were also potions with healing effects that were even better than high-grade healing potions. Each of these potions was extremely valuable. Some of them, such as the spirit-burning potion, would even tempt a king rank expert. One could only imagine how valuable they were. Chapter 507. After staying in the royal city for a month, Gray bid farewell to Sophia, Francis, and the others and left the royal city. After teleporting several times, he appeared in the basement of the Storm Mercenary Group's residence in Mercenary City. "Lord Gray." Marlowe Sidney bowed respectfully when he saw Gray. Gray nodded and asked, "Did you contact me because you found an Ice-type King-level blood fiend?" "Yes, Lord. We found the Ice-type King-level blood fiend you asked us to search for," Marlowe Sidney replied. "Oh, where is it?" Gray's interest was piqued, and he hurriedly asked, "In the Crocodile Swamp." "Do you have a detailed map?" Gray knew about the Crocodile Swamp. It was a swamp in the western part of the kingdom. Because there were many crocodile-type blood fiends in the swamp, it was called the Crocodile Swamp. Yes, the place where the Ice-type King-level blood fiend was found has been marked with a red cross. Marlowe Sidney hurriedly handed over a map. Gray took it and opened it. On the map, there was a red cross that was extremely eye-catching. "Lord, do you need me to arrange for someone to lead the way?" Marlowe Sidney asked cautiously. "No need. Just maintain the Storm Mercenary Group's status quo." Be careful not to expose your relationship with me. Also, if there's any news about the Flame Kingdom, inform me immediately." Gray shook his head and instructed. "Yes, Lord," Marlowe Sidney respectfully replied. Although he was a third-level Desolate level expert, he did not show any arrogance in front of Gray. In fact, he did not even have the slightest dissatisfaction with Gray in his heart. After being resurrected, his soul was no longer his original soul. It was a new soul created by Gray's ability. His respect and loyalty towards Gray was definitely greater than that of a so-called Death Warrior. After using the spatial teleportation to travel a short distance, Gray transformed his greenish-black wings and began to fly. It took him a day to reach the Crocodile Swamp. It was getting late. He stopped at a small town hotel outside the Crocodile Swamp. Have you heard? Something strange happened in Crocodile Swamp. In the hotel, there were more than 10 tables, and a few of them were already occupied. The diners should be from the same mercenary group. The crocodile's leather was an excellent material for making battle armor. Therefore, mercenary groups would come here from time to hunt for crocodile-type blood fiends. A conversation between 5 mercenaries at one of the tables attracted Gray's attention. "What strange thing?" someone at the same table asked. "There's fog in the Crocodile Swamp." The mercenary who spoke earlier said. "Fog at this time?" Someone beside him exclaimed in surprise. It was currently summer, the hottest time of the year. According to common sense, there shouldn't be any fog. And that's not even the strangest part. The person who spoke earlier glanced at the people at the same table and said, "That's not the strangest thing. What's even stranger?" The people at the same table looked at the former curiously. Even the people at the other tables also looked over when they heard their conversation. Some mercenary groups felt that it was strange, so they sent people in to investigate. In the end, all the people who went in to investigate returned to their original place. Being stared at by so many people, the mercenary who spoke felt that his vanity was greatly satisfied. He immediately spoke loudly. "Return to their original place?" Yes, the people who were sent to investigate would eventually return to their original place, no matter where they went. They couldn't enter the depths of the fog at all. Gray supported his chin with one hand. Obviously, this fog was very abnormal. Whether it was the time it appeared or the characteristic of making people return to their original place, it indicated that this fog was not normal and was not naturally produced. What kind of blood fiend created this fog? According to Gray's estimation, this fog was most likely created by a blood fiend's blood fiend ability. It should have the ability to cause hallucinations and affect people's senses, which was why people unknowingly returned to their original place. The next day, Gray set off for the Crocodile Swamp. The Crocodile Swamp was naturally a swamp terrain. The soil was excessively moist, the ground was soft, and there was a lot of rotten mud. If one was not careful, one would fall deeper and deeper into the mud. Eventually, one's entire body would be buried in the mud. Every year, only a small portion of the people who died in the Crocodile Swamp were killed by blood fiends. A large number of people died in the Crocodile Swamp's terrain. Such terrain was naturally nothing to Gray, who had the ability to fly. He flapped his wings and flew over the swamp, heading toward the location marked on the map where the ice-type king-level blood fiend was found. Swish! In the mud of the swamp, a brown-skinned blood fiend, which was the same color as the mud, noticed Gray flying in the air. It opened its huge mouth, and a compressed water blade slashed toward Gray. Crack! Crack! Just as the water blade was about to hit Gray, it suddenly turned into ice. Then, the ice blade changed direction and slashed toward the brown-skinned blood fiend. Bright red blood splattered and mixed with the mud. In the mud, a blood fiend was rolling around in pain. Mud splashed everywhere. After struggling for a while, it stopped. Gray had no intention of going forward to collect the blood. He flew straight past it. Judging from the power of the water blade, the blood fiend that attacked him should only be a mad-level blood fiend. Blood fiends of this level could hardly arouse his interest. After flying for half a day, Gray had entered the depths of the Crocodile Swamp. There is indeed an area covered in fog. He discovered an area that extended for a few miles. It was misty and completely covered by a thick fog, which was incompatible with the surrounding yellowish-brown terrain. It was quite strange. Gray flew over and looked down from the sky. The fog was very thick. It was so thick that it resembled the white clouds in the sky. Visibility was extremely low. Even if he tried his best to look, he could only see about 10 meters away. I really want to take a look. It was an ability that could create hallucinatory fog. Although it did not have any attacking power, it was a very practical ability. Not only could it be used to trap enemies, but it could also be used to hide and escape at a critical moment. If there was a chance to obtain the blood of such a blood fiend, he naturally would not miss it. Forget it. The most important thing now is the Ice-type King-level blood fiend. If I delay for too long, this Ice-type King-level blood fiend might have left its original location. That would not be good. In the end, Gray dismissed the idea of exploring and resolutely chose to leave. Hunting Ice-type King-level blood fiends was the most urgent thing he needed to do now. Everything else had to wait. After spending a night in the swamp, Gray approached the area marked on the map the next day. He descended from the sky and began to search carefully. After searching for a while, Gray found several traces left behind by large blood fiends. They were very large. Based on the rough estimation skills he learned from the Hellhound mercenaries, the blood fiends that left these traces should be over 10 meters long. If he was not mistaken, a king-level blood fiend had indeed stayed in this area. However, it was obvious that this king-level blood fiend had left and did not continue to stay in this area. Looks like I have to waste a bottle of hunter's medicine. Gray touched the purple ring, and a bottle of hunter's medicine appeared in his hand. According to Master Arnold's appraisal, this kind of medicine could temporarily give a person a sense of smell that was comparable to that of a king-level blood fiend, a desolate demonic dog. It could also make a person an expert in tracking. This was also the origin of the name of the hunter's medicine. He had a total of 3 bottles of this kind of medicine. Now, it seemed that he had to waste 1 bottle to search for the ice-type king beast. He unscrewed the cork and drank the medicine in 1 gulp. The medicine had a slightly bitter taste and a hint of blood. After all, the main ingredient of this medicine was blood fiend's blood. Whoosh! After swallowing the medicine, Gray felt that his sense of smell had become extremely sharp in an instant. All kinds of smells came one after another. The freshness of plants, the stench of rotten leaves, the residual smell of wild beasts in the surroundings, regardless of whether the smell was small or strong. It was difficult to escape from Gray's nose. Even if it was just a little bit of smell from a few hundred meters away, he could still smell it. Gray came to one of the places where the king beast had left its tracks. Very quickly, he smelled a unique scent. The reason why it was unique was because it gave him a sense of danger. Powerful blood fiends could drive away other blood fiends just by smelling. Obviously, there's a reason for this. Their scent contained a strong sense of danger, forcing other blood fiends to stay far away from them. Gray followed the scent and quickly chased after it. A crocodile blood fiend had sunk its body into the mud. Only its 2 eyes and nostrils were exposed. It had completely merged with the mud. It discovered that Gray was approaching from a few dozen meters away. It hid in the mud and did not move. It was waiting for Gray to come closer so that it could launch a thunderous attack on Gray. Gray was getting closer and closer. It was already preparing to attack Gray, but at this moment, Gray casually waved his hand and a green wind blade slashed out. Poof! A few dozen meters long mark appeared on the ground. In the center of the mark, the crocodile blood fiend did not have time to attack before it was cut in half by Gray's wind blade. Blood spurted out like a fountain. After taking the hunter's potion, Gray's sense of smell had become extremely developed. Even from a distance, Gray could already smell the scent of the crocodile blood fiend hiding in the mud. That was why the scene just now had occurred. Along the way, they had been ambushed by many blood fiends. However, Gray had discovered them in advance and was aware of the dangers ahead of time. Ice that hasn't melted. In front of Gray, there was a stretch of ice that extended for more than 100 meters. Judging from the fact that the ice had not completely melted, the blood fiend that had left this ice behind had not left for long. The feedback from the smell also confirmed this. He smelled an extremely strong scent of blood fiends here. This scent belonged to the suspected king-level blood fiend that he had been tracking. Chapter 508. It should be nearby. The smell was getting stronger, and there was not a single blood fiend in sight. All signs indicated that the Ice King beast was nearby. Gray became even more careful in his search. Every step he took was very light, as he was afraid of alerting the Ice King beast. It's right in front. After searching for more than 10 minutes, Gray determined that the source of the smell was just a few hundred meters away from him with the help of the hunter's potion. Ignoring the fact that he was dirty, Gray sneaked over under the cover of the dense seaweed. He pushed aside the seaweed and finally saw his target. A huge blood fiend was half lying on the ground in a meadow. It was a huge beast that was 13 to 14 meters long. Its body was like a horse, with 4 hooves and a short tail. However, it had no hair on its body. Instead, it was covered in palm-sized white scales. Its head was like a cow's, with an inverted triangle shape. There was a slightly curved horn on each side of its head. On its huge head, there was a pair of blood-red eyes that were as large as lanterns. A king-level blood fiend. Gray could tell that it was a king-level blood fiend from size alone. Connecting it to the ice he saw earlier, the identity of the Ice King beast was confirmed. Gray further determined that this blood fiend was a king-level ice soul king beast. It was of the same order as the ice soul beast in his body. Gray did not make a move immediately. He hid and waited. His strongest combat power was at the peak of level 3 of the Desolation level. Although this combat power was extremely strong, it would be difficult to kill a king-level blood fiend. His strength alone was not enough to kill this king-level blood fiend. He had to use other methods. Just as he had planned, he would need to borrow the power of the spirits. However, spirits were nocturnal creatures and could not appear during the day. Now, he could only wait until night fell. He waited in the seaweed. After a few hours, the effects of the hunter's potion had worn off, and his extraordinary sense of smell had disappeared. Fortunately, the target was right in front of him. He did not need that extraordinary sense of smell anymore. The sky finally darkened. During this time, the Ice King beast did not move. It was obvious that it was going to spend the night here. When the sky finally turned completely dark, Gray made his move. He took out the dagger tied to his left leg and stabbed it into the ground. He then gave the spirits in the dagger an order. Following Gray's order, the spirits came out of the dagger one after another. However, they did not expose themselves. Instead, they went straight into the ground. 1, 2, 3. A total of 20 Desolation-level spirits, with the dagger as the center. Because they were buried under the soil, their bodies, which would emit a hazy white light in the dark, did not emit any white light. Sneak over. Gray commanded the 20 Desolate-level blood fiend spirits to sneak towards the Ice Soul King beast from underground. Finally, they appeared underneath the Ice Soul King beast. Attack! Gray ordered all the spirits to attack. Instantly, all the spirits came out of the ground and attacked the Ice King beast. Bang! Just as Gray ordered the spirits to attack the Ice King beast, the Ice King beast seemed to have sensed danger. Its huge body suddenly stood up and jumped to the side. Bang! The Ice King beast's huge body appeared dozens of meters away. It crashed into the ground and sent rocks flying. The place where it had been was now filled with 20 Desolation-level spirits. It failed. Gray, who was commanding the spirits in the distance, shook his head. With the jump, the Ice King beast managed to avoid the siege of the 20 spirits. None of the spirits managed to possess the Ice King beast. The stronger the being, the more sensitive it was to danger. Although the Ice King beast did not sense the spirits under the ground, its sense of danger made it move away from its original position. Roar! As a king-level blood beast, it was at the top of the food chain. The Ice Soul beast was enraged. It activated its ice ability, and a large amount of sharp ice spread toward the 20 Desolate-level blood beast ghosts. In the blink of an eye, the terrifying frost covered the 20 Desolate-level blood fiend wraiths. Moreover, the frost did not stop there. Instead, it continued to spread, reaching a distance of several hundred meters. Along the way, the ground, the water plants, the rocks, the ponds, everything was covered in ice, and a stretch of small icebergs appeared. It's not affected. Seeing such terrifying power, Gray was a little worried that the 20 desolation level spirits would be affected. However, his worry did not come to fruition. Just as he had guessed, even a king beast's ice attack could not hurt the spirits. The ice pierced through the spirits, but they were not affected in the slightest. They quickly drifted towards the ice soul king beast. The ice did not freeze these creatures. The ice king beast was very alert. As it attacked with another wave of ice, it quickly retreated to avoid the 20 desolation level spirits. Its instincts told it that if the 20 desolation level spirits got close to it, it would be very dangerous. Spread out. Gray ordered the 20 desolation level spirits to spread out and form a large circle. They first surrounded the Ice King Beast, then moved closer to the King Beast. Roar! The Ice Soul King Beast sensed extreme danger as it was surrounded by the desolate level blood fiend wraiths from all directions. It stomped on the ground with its hooves, and a terrifying frost spread rapidly with it as the center. Unfortunately, it was ineffective. The King Beast blood spirits easily passed through the ice and continued to attack the Ice King Beast. The Ice King Beast panicked and chose a direction. It used all its King Beast speed to break out of the encirclement. Faced with such an ineffective opponent, it decided to run. Bang! It was extremely fast. When it was close to the spirits, its huge body jumped up, trying to fly over the spirits and avoid them. However, the spirits could float in the air. All of them leaped into the air and pounced on the Ice Soul King Beast. With the Ice Soul King's speed as a Beast King, even the desolate level blood beast wraiths couldn't match up to it. However, there were 20 of them. Although they weren't as fast as the Ice Soul King, their numbers made up for it. Squeak! Although the Ice King Beast managed to avoid most of the desolation level spirits, it was still unable to avoid them. It was hit by a desolation level spirit head-on. The desolation level spirit that collided with the Ice King Beast quickly melted into the Ice King Beast's body like mist. Whoa! The Ice King Beast that was melted by the desolation level spirit suddenly felt cold. It could not help but tremble all over. As an Ice-type King Beast, it had a natural resistance to cold. However, it seemed to have lost this resistance. It felt as if its entire body was frozen. In fact, it was not its body that was giving it this feeling, but its soul. The spirit was attacking its soul, not its body. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The Ice King Beast's body became sluggish after being invaded by the spirits. More spirits seized the opportunity and pounced on the Ice King Beast. The Ice King Beast felt the coldness grow stronger. Roar! The gigantic body of the Ice Soul King Beast rolled around crazily. With it, as the center, streaks and streaks of terrifying ice spread out, quickly spreading into the distance. A world of ice and snow appeared. Crack! Crack! Even though he was hundreds of meters away, Gray was still covered in ice. His entire body turned into an ice sculpture. Fortunately, he had a strong defense. It was not easy for this kind of ice to hurt him. Crack! After breaking free from the ice, he quickly retreated more than 1,000 meters away. After making sure that he would not be affected, he stopped and paid attention to the Ice King Beast in the distance. Crack! With the Ice King Beast as the epicenter, terrifying ice exploded. Icebergs formed by ice appeared one after another. Sensing that death was approaching, the Ice King Beast went berserk. It attacked randomly. Unfortunately, its struggle was futile. Spirits were unique creatures that naturally countered ice-type blood fiends. Its powerful ice-type power was unable to affect the spirit that had already entered its body. After struggling for half an hour, the Ice King Beast finally stopped. The huge body of the Ice King Beast lay in the ice and snow that it had created. It was completely motionless. Gray jumped from small ice to small ice, approaching the Ice King Beast. Finally, he arrived in front of the Ice King Beast. Even with Gray's approach, the Ice King Beast did not react in the slightest. He circled to the Ice Soul King Beast's head and tried to check if it was breathing. However, He couldn't find any signs of breathing. Clearly, it was dead. After releasing all the desolate-level blood fiend spirits from the Ice King beast's body and having them return to the dagger, Gray unsheathed the sword at his waist. Black mist swirled around the sword as he slashed at the Ice King beast. Clang! It was as if he had slashed a piece of metal. Only a shallow cut appeared on the white scale armor, and only a little bit of blood seeped out. Clang, clang, clang. Gray slashed at the same spot 10 times in a row. Finally, the wound became slightly larger and blood began to gush out. He took out his rune bag and hurriedly collected the blood. He did not plan to let even a drop of blood go. The blood of a king-level blood fiend was truly precious. Any portion could be sold for more than 1,000,000 yuan. Any waste would be shameful. After collecting the blood, Gray looked back at the corpse of the Ice King beast. A freshly killed king beast was definitely the best target to use his resurrection ability on. Naturally, he would not miss this opportunity. The Ice King beast in front of him would become his first king-level combatant. Chapter 509. I need to find another place. Gray shook his head as he looked at the white surroundings. All the plants within a 1,000-meter radius had died under the frost. It was not a suitable place to use the resurrection ability. After all, the resurrection ability required the participation of plants. He released the king beast from the purple ring and let the 9-meter-tall king beast drag the corpse of the Ice Soul King beast away from the area covered in frost. They arrived at a place with abundant water plants. Gray stepped forward and pressed his hand on the head of the Ice Soul King beast, activating the resurrection ability. Even in the middle of the night, green light could be seen floating from the surrounding water plants. It gathered on the body of the Ice Soul King beast and enveloped the corpse of the Ice Soul King beast. The wounds on the body of the Ice Soul King beast that had been inflicted by Gray were quickly healing. In the body of the Ice Soul King beast, the blood that had been absorbed by Gray was also quickly replenishing. At the same time, the soul of the Ice Soul King beast was being crushed and reconstructed by a mysterious force. During this process, the soul became closer to Gray. When the blood was completely restored, when the soul was completely reconstructed. Thump, thump, thump. The heart of the Ice Soul King beast began to beat slowly. The blood in its body also began to flow. Then the Ice Soul King beast stood up. Its huge body was like a small mountain standing in front of Gray. A sense of intimacy was transmitted to Gray. At this point, Gray had obtained his first king-level combat power. Unlike Stanley Grinton, the Ice Soul King beast in front of him had complete king-level combat power. Not only did it have the strength of a physical body, but it also had the ability of a king-level blood beast. There was no difference between it and a real king-level beast. Although Gray seemed to have killed the Ice Soul King beast easily, that was only because the ghost ability that Gray controlled was extremely effective. It did not mean that the Ice Soul King beast was weak. Under normal circumstances, it would be difficult for Gray, Stanley Grinton, and King Beast to kill it if it did not use its Spectre ability. His combat power was not like Marlowe Sidney's, who wielded a silver-grade weapon. His combat power could be maintained for a long period of time. In addition to his king-tier defense, it was almost impossible to kill him. They found a dry place and pitched their tents, preparing to rest here for the night. After crawling in the water grass for several hours, Gray felt uncomfortable all over. He didn't feel comfortable until he took a hot bath and changed into clean clothes. The next day, when the sun rose, Gray finished his morning training and rode the Ice Soul King beast out of the crocodile swamp. Naturally, he would not leave the Ice Soul King beast in the crocodile swamp. He wanted to bring such a powerful combat power back to the Fergus family. That way, he would not have to be afraid even if king-tier fighters attacked him. The only pity was that the Ice Soul King beast, who had been resurrected using its resurrection ability, was a living creature. It could not be stored in the purple ring and carried around with him. The ability to control corpses and resurrect had their own advantages and disadvantages. The advantage of the ability to control corpses was that it could be carried around with him. The disadvantage was that if the controlled object was not a physical blood fiend, it would not be able to display the combat power that the blood fiend had when it was alive. The advantage of the resurrection ability was that no matter what type of blood fiend it would be able to display the combat power that it had when it was alive. The disadvantage was that it was not convenient to carry around. Thump, thump, thump. Along the way, all the blood fiends and wild beasts fled when they saw Gray and his beast combination. Everywhere they passed, there would be beasts fleeing in panic. Fortunately, Gray had ordered the Ice Soul King beast to restrain its aura. Otherwise, a beast tide would have been unavoidable. We're back here again. After walking for half a day, Gray once again saw the fog that extended for miles. The fog was so thick that it completely covered the area. From afar, it was a vast expanse of white. Now that I've dealt with the Ice Soul King beast, let's explore this fog and see what's so strange about it. Gray drove the Ice Soul Dead beast and stepped into the fog. The fog was extremely dense. Once one entered, one's field of vision would be extremely limited. Even with Gray's power, he could only see around 10 meters away. Infrared perception is also useless. Gray had always relied on infrared perception, but it was useless in this place. The low temperature of the fog had assimilated everything around it, making it the same temperature. Gray's infrared perception, which relied on the difference in temperature to form a field of vision, was useless. Gray did not stop there. Driving the Ice Soul King beast, he chose a direction and walked. He was not so frightened. There's indeed something strange. After walking a few hundred meters, Gray suddenly felt an invisible force, like countless spiderwebs, coming from all directions and seeping into him. He was quite familiar with this force. It was the force of the soul. The Ghost Fox's Blood Beast ability was the soul type. After obtaining the Ghost Fox's bloodline, Gray's perception of souls had become extremely sharp. Hence, he immediately felt the spiderweb-like force of the soul. The reason why those who entered returned to their original place should be because of this force. Obviously, the spiderweb-like force of the soul was the culprit that caused others to get lost in the fog and return to their original place. Gray's soul power seeped out from his body and wrapped around himself and the Ice Soul King beast. Suddenly, all the spiderweb-like force of the soul was blocked outside. The Ghost Fox's soul attack was to attack the target with the power of the soul and cause damage to the target soul. The method Gray was using now was a kind of use of this soul ability. Unaffected by the spiderweb-like force of the soul, Gray moved almost in a straight line. He quickly went deeper into the fog. After walking for a few miles, he guessed that he should have entered the center of the fog. Suddenly, the fog disappeared in front of Gray. At the same time, a strange plant appeared in front of him. It was a plant about a meter tall. It was slightly short and full of branches and leaves, looking like a shrub. The reason why this plant looked strange was that the trunk, branches, and leaves of this plant were completely condensed from the fog. The originally formless fog had actually condensed into the shape of a plant. At the top of the plant, there was a crystal ball the size of a baby's fist. The crystal ball was transparent, and there were strands of mist inside. The mist was constantly changing shape in the crystal ball. What is this? Gray was surprised. A tree condensed from fog with a crystal ball growing at the top of the tree. Whether it was the tree or the crystal ball, they were both full of strangeness. Afraid that the Ice Soul King beast would step on the tree condensed from fog, Gray jumped down from the Ice Soul King beast and walked towards the 1-meter-tall tree. Whoosh! Suddenly, a golden light appeared and quickly attacked Gray's throat. The golden light was only 3 fingers thick, but Gray felt a hair-raising danger from this golden light. Almost instinctively, his body turned into metal and was filled with a bronze color. His body moved to the side to dodge. This golden light that was supposed to attack Gray's throat hit Gray's shoulder because of Gray's sidestep. Clang! The sound of metal colliding rang out. The golden light hit Gray's body and bounced off. The surrounding ground was sent flying by the shockwave. Gray, on the other hand, was pushed back again and again. A wound appeared on his shoulder, and some blood seeped out from the wound. Even after activating his metallized defense, he still suffered some injuries from the golden light. A soft sound was heard. In the direction of the golden light, a masked and slender female figure walked out of the fog. She looked at Gray, who was sent flying, and there was a trace of surprise in her eyes. The golden light that bounced off Gray's body floated beside her. It was a golden sharp blade. It was very exquisite, and one could see beautiful patterns. However, unlike ordinary sharp blades, this one did not have a handle, only an extremely sharp blade. Chapter 510. Roar. Seeing the masked woman attacking Gray, the Ice Soul King beast was enraged. It activated its ice ability, and frost spread from where it was to the masked woman, as if a river of ice was spreading. Whoosh! The golden blade in front of the masked woman suddenly shone brightly and slashed at the river of ice. Crack! The huge river of ice was split in half. Not only that, the golden blade continued to attack the Ice Soul King beast after splitting the river of ice. Whoosh! Sensing danger, the Ice Soul King beast's huge body exploded with king-level speed and dodged to the side, avoiding the golden blade. After the golden blade carved a deep trench in the ground, it finally lost its momentum and returned to the masked woman. "Who are you?" Gray went forward to meet up with the Ice Soul King beast and looked at the masked woman angrily. She had launched a sneak attack with the intention of killing. If not for his strong defense, he would have been seriously injured by the sneak attack. Whoosh! The masked woman had no intention of answering Gray. The golden blade in front of her shot out again and attacked the Ice Soul King beast. In front of the Ice Soul King beast, a large amount of ice rose from the ground and turned into ice walls one after another, blocking the golden blades that were coming at it. Poof! But the golden blade had a terrifying destructive power. It shattered the ice walls one by one, and finally broke through the ice walls and attacked the Ice Soul King beast. Gray pounced forward, black mist swirling around his long sword, blocking the metal blade. Clang! Even though the golden blade had lost half of its power after piercing through countless ice walls, it still forced Gray to retreat. Silver tier weapon. Gray stared at the golden blade that had returned to the masked woman after pushing him back. The masked woman was obviously a first-tier king-level fighter, and her level was comparable to the Ice Soul King beast. The reason why the opponent was stronger than the Frost King beast was probably because the opponent's weapon was a silver-tier magic weapon. Furthermore, it was a silver-tier magic weapon that was specially crafted for metal users. By now, he could roughly guess why the masked woman had attacked him. The plant condensed from the mist was clearly not an ordinary plant. The mist covering a radius of several miles should have been caused by that plant. The veiled woman had probably discovered this plant before him and had been guarding it all this time. Obviously, they thought that he wanted to snatch the misty plant, so they attacked him. He understood what the masked woman was thinking, but he couldn't help but feel annoyed by her repeated attacks. Swish, swish! Stanley Grinton and the King Beast appeared. One of them floated in the air, while the other moved like a giant chariot. They rushed toward the masked woman. Corpse control ability. The masked woman's voice was crisp and clear, but it was extremely cold. The golden blade floating in front of her suddenly split into hundreds of illusory shadows, attacking Stanley Grinton and the King Beast. Boom, boom. Stanley Grinton and the King Beast dodged. Relying on their king-class speed, they avoided the attacks of the golden shadows. They allowed the shadows to explode behind them as they continued to approach the masked woman. But the golden shadows did not stop there. More shadows appeared from the golden blade, whistling as they attacked Stanley Grinton and the King Beast. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Faced with the endless stream of golden shadows, even Stanley Grinton and the King Kong Beast King, who had the speed of a king, could not help but struggle. Clang! Several golden shadows attacked Stanley Grinton. Stanley Grinton stepped into the air, dodging the golden shadows. But at that moment, even more golden shadows attacked. Stanley Grinton swung his sword in the air to block a few of them, but he was knocked back by the other golden shadows. Clang, clang, clang. The King Beast's body was too heavy. It could not walk in the air. It could only dodge on the ground and use its fists to block the attacks. Its huge body made it easier for the golden shadows to hit it. Under the attack of the golden shadows, it was also forced back. Stanley Grinton and the King Beast were fighting the masked woman. Gray and the Ice Soul King Beast naturally would not stand still. Dong, dong, dong. Gray stood on the Ice Soul King Beast back. Together with the Ice Soul King Beast, they approached the masked woman. Crack, crack, crack. The Ice Soul King Beast used its ice ability. 100-meter-wide glacier attacked the masked woman. Gray also slashed out with his sword. A turbulent black fog, spinning violently, attacked the masked woman along with the glacier. Whoosh! The golden blade in front of the masked woman suddenly burst with golden light. It bloomed with a light that was dozens of meters long. It went toward the giant glacier and the black fog vortex. Crack! The giant glacier and the black fog vortex were both shattered by the golden blade. Not only that, but the golden blade continued to attack Gray and the Ice Soul King Beast. Poochie! The Ice Soul King Beast dodged. 100-meter deep crack appeared on the ground where it had been. Clang, clang, clang. Stanley Grinton and the King Beast, the Ice Soul King Beast, and Gray attacked the masked woman together. Stanley Grinton and the King Beast were occasionally forced back by the golden shadows created by the masked woman's golden blade. Gray and the Ice Soul King Beast were occasionally approached by the golden blades. There were a few times when the Ice Soul King Beast used its King tier speed to dodge. In terms of defense, the Ice Soul King Beast was only an ordinary King tier beast. If it was hit by the golden blades, it would be severely injured. Poof! After dozens of exchanges, the Ice Soul King Beast could not dodge in time. It was slashed by the golden blades, and a deep wound appeared on its body. Dark red blood flowed out. Is this the difference between a King tier beast with and without a silver weapon? Seeing the wound on the Ice Soul King Beast, Gray frowned. As a King tier blood beast, the Ice Soul King Beast's combat power was not inferior to that of an ordinary King tier beast. However, it was still injured when it was working together with Stanley Grinton, the King Beast, and the King Beast. One could imagine the masked woman's combat power. Although a silver weapon was not enough to allow a King tier beast to fight above its level, it was enough to allow a King tier beast to stand at the top of the same level and crush those without a silver weapon. Gray had a silver magical weapon, but unfortunately, the Ice Soul King Beast could not use it. As for himself, he had to avoid using a silver weapon as much as possible. After all, a silver weapon consumed a lot of his blood energy. If he could not maintain the metallization, the situation would only worsen. Moreover, even if he used a silver weapon, his combat power would not be comparable to the masked woman's. It would be great if the metallization ability could be used on the Ice Soul King Beast. Gray thought of the metallization ability that could be used on Stanley Grinton and the King Beast. If the metallization ability could be used on the Ice Soul King Beast, the Ice Soul King Beast's injury would not be so severe. No, maybe it can. Gray narrowed his eyes. He thought of the similarities between the Ice Soul King Beast, Stanley Grinton, and the King Beast. Both sides were under his control, but one was alive and the other was not. Perhaps the metallization ability could also be used on the Ice Soul King Beast. Thinking of this, Gray tried to extend the metallization ability to the Ice Soul King Beast through his connection with the King Beast. Whoosh! A layer of silver metallic luster appeared on the surface of the Ice Soul King Beast's body. The Ice Soul King Beast, which was originally covered in white scales, was soon covered in a layer of silver scales. Finally, it turned into a silver giant beast. Obviously, the metallization was successful. Very good. Standing on the Ice Soul King Beast's strengthened defense, Gray's confidence was greatly boosted. He commanded Stanley Grinton and the King Beast to continue attacking the masked woman. Although the Ice Soul King Beast could not use a silver weapon, the gap between it and the masked woman would be narrowed after the metallization. Whoosh! After a few exchanges, the golden blade split the ice river and attacked the Ice Soul King Beast. The Ice Soul King Beast dodged a few times, but in the end, it could not avoid the attack. Clang! The Ice Soul King Beast kept retreating. Although there were wounds on its body where it had been hit by the golden blade, they were only minor injuries compared to its enormous size. As expected, seeing this, the masked woman frowned. When she saw the Ice Soul King beast's body metalize, she had already guessed this. Now, her guess was confirmed. The Ice Soul King beast's defense had greatly increased, and it was very difficult for her to damage it. At this moment, Gray moved. A blood-red spear suddenly appeared in his hand. At the tip of the spear, a black tornado suddenly appeared. With a terrifying aura, it attacked the masked woman. This was a king-level attack. Gray's black fog had been strengthened by the blood-red spear, and he had chosen the moment when the masked woman attacked. Whoosh! The masked woman had no time to block it. She quickly dodged to the side, but this attack was too sudden. It was not only the timing, but also the person who attacked. Before this, Gray had never shown his king-level combat strength. He had always shown his combat strength at the 3rd level of the Desolated level. As a result, the masked woman did not pay much attention to Gray. In her opinion, among all the people attacking her, Gray was the least threatening. Under such circumstances, Gray suddenly erupted with the combat strength of a King Realm expert. Poof! 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 Under the black fog vortex, the ground, ice, and rock shattered. The masked woman could not dodge it. She was sucked into the black fog vortex and carried far away. Along the way, the terrifying black gas, which had reached the king level, continuously attacked the other party with the power of melting. Because of the power of blood, Gray was very wary of using a silver weapon. However, this did not mean that he would not use it at all. If there was a chance, he would use it without hesitation, such as now. Chapter 511. Whoosh, whoosh. Gray did not stop there. Black mist surged from the blood-red spear and turned into a huge black vortex, attacking the masked woman. Not only him, but the Ice Soul King beast, Stanley Grinton, and the King Kong King beast also made their moves. The Ice Soul King beast used its ice ability and condensed icicles several meters thick in the air. They whistled and hit the masked woman. Stanley Grinton and the King Kong King beast burst out with king-level speed and pounced on the masked woman. Boom! The black mist vortex and a large number of icicles burst out from where the masked woman was sent flying, and a terrifying shock wave spread in all directions. A huge crater appeared on the ground. Smoke and dust rose, and broken ice, soil, and stones splashed everywhere. Everywhere that was sputtered. It was as if they had been hit by a cannonball. Stanley Grinton and the King Kong King beast rushed toward the crater and pounced on the masked woman. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Suddenly, golden shadows shot out from the dust-filled crater and attacked Stanley Grinton and the King Kong King beast. Clang, clang, clang. The two of them were forced to retreat under the attack of the golden shadows. When the dust settled, a figure was revealed from the crater. It was a woman with long black hair and fair skin. The mask was damaged by the fierce battle, revealing her face. It was the face of a beautiful young woman with an eye-catching mole at the corner of her mouth. Looking at the woman, Gray's pupils shrank. The woman's clothes were of high quality, probably made from the hair of a high-level blood fiend. However, they were still damaged by the previous attack, revealing large areas of beautiful skin. But there was no trace of a wound on her skin. In other words, she was not injured at all under the attack of him and the Ice Soul King beast. Her defense is stronger than mine now. Gray's face became serious. His current defense was so strong that even a first-stage king grade martial artist would find it difficult to injure him. However, under the attack of first-stage king grade martial artist, he could still be injured. But the woman was different. Even with a first-tier king class attack, she hadn't been injured at all. That meant her physical defense was so strong that she was immune to first-tier king class attacks. Her defense was even stronger than Gray's. "You're the snob who attacked the capital," Gray said in a deep voice. Possessing a defense that far surpassed those at the same cultivation level, there was no doubt that the other party's identity was revealed. It had to be the snobbish person who had attacked the capital. He didn't believe that it was a coincidence that he would encounter someone else with a defense that far surpassed those at the same cultivation level. The woman didn't answer, but her face seemed to be covered with a layer of frost. It was obvious that the loss just now made her quite angry. Whoosh! The next moment, the woman's figure dashed out. She burst out with the speed of a king and quickly approached Gray. Crack, crack. A wide river of ice extended from the front of the Ice Soul King beast and attacked the woman. Poochie. In front of the woman, the golden blade shone brightly and slashed forward. The river of ice was cut in half, and the golden blade attacked Gray with the remaining force. Clang! Gray's spear was wrapped in black mist. He blocked the attack, but he was forced to retreat. Knowing that even a king-class attack couldn't hurt the woman, Gray didn't dare to use the blood-red spear's enhancement. His attack was only at third-tier desolation level, so even the remaining force of the golden blade was barely enough for him to block it. Whoosh! The golden blade returned to the woman. She approached Gray with a cold face. Crack, crack! The river of ice filled with cold air spread out again and extended toward the woman. The woman quickly moved to the side and avoided the river of ice. The river of ice continued to spread forward, reaching hundreds of meters away. Clang! Stanley Grinton took advantage of the moment to close in on the woman. He approached her from the side, and the broken sword in his hand turned into a silver light and slashed toward the woman's neck. The woman turned around and faced Stanley Grinton head-on. Golden light shot out from her fist as she attached the metal ability to her fist. Although it wasn't enhanced by the golden blade, the power of this punch was still at the king class. Stanley Grinton was sent flying like a cannonball. Poof! The king beast appeared behind the woman, and its huge fist smashed toward her back. The woman seemed to have eyes on the back of her head. The golden blade in front of her moved to her back and slashed out with golden light. Before the king beast's fist could hit the woman, it was hit by the golden blade. A wound appeared on its body, and its huge body flew backward. Whoosh, whoosh! At this moment, a black mist vortex appeared. The timing was perfect. The woman didn't have time to dodge or block, and the vortex crashed in her body. The woman wasn't injured at all, but she was still pushed back. Troublesome. Gray's expression was solemn. Although the opponent was pushed back, her strength was obvious. Even if he, the Ice King Beast, Stanley Grinton, and the King Beast worked together, they could only barely push her back. In the end, Stanley Grinton and the King Beast are only at the third level of the Desolation level. They can protect themselves against the King class, but their combat strength is severely lacking. After this, I must find a way to find a King-class blood beast with a physical body. The ability to control corpses could only be maximized on a King-class blood beast with a physical body. In order to maximize the combat strength of the ability, he had to find and kill a King-class blood beast with a physical body. Boom, boom, boom. An hour later, the terrifying battle was still going on. Besieged by Gray, Stanley Grinton, the King Beast, and the Ice King Beast, the woman was sent flying from time to time because she couldn't handle it. However, with her strong defense, it was impossible for her to be injured. Gray, Stanley Grinton, the King Beast, and the Ice King Beast all had many wounds on their bodies. Fortunately, although their defense was not as strong as the woman's after metallization, it was still not something a first-level King-class attack could inflict. Normal attacks are ineffective, and I can't use my ghost ability during the day. Looking at the woman who was still at ease under his, Stanley Grinton, the King Beast, and the Ice King Beast joint attack, Gray, who had used up most of his blood force, wanted to retreat. The woman's combat strength was stronger than his, and she had a strong defense that he couldn't hurt at all. In addition, he couldn't use his ghost ability and had used up most of his blood force. The situation was very unfavorable for him. When his blood force was used up and he couldn't maintain his metallization, he would be in a very dangerous situation. But before that, I have to get my hands on that crystal ball. Gray looked at the crystal ball above the misty plant. During the battle, both sides chose to stay away from the misty plant, so even in their battle, the misty plant was not damaged. From the way the woman guarded the misty plant and didn't immediately pick the crystal ball above it, the misty plant should be in its growth stage now and not ready to be picked. However, he obviously couldn't wait until then. Although he didn't know how big of an impact it would have if he picked it, he definitely wouldn't leave the crystal ball to the woman. Putting aside the fact that he was indeed curious about the crystal ball above the misty plant, The fact that the woman suddenly attacked him without warning meant that he couldn't let the crystal ball fall into the woman's hands. Gray was ready to move, but at this moment, there was a sudden change. Woo-woo. The mist that covered a radius of a few miles suddenly fluctuated violently, and then all the mist began to shrink, gathering toward the crystal ball above the misty plant. A large amount of mist gathered towards the crystal ball, and the gathered mist formed a vortex. The crystal ball seemed to have an infinitely large space, and all the mist was stored inside, but the size of the crystal ball didn't increase at all. Finally, the mist that covered a radius of a few miles was all absorbed into the crystal ball, and the anomaly within a radius of a few miles disappeared, leaving only a misty tree and a misty crystal ball on the tree. Whoosh! Seeing this change, the woman's eyes lit up, and she quickly rushed towards the crystal ball. Can it be picked? The change in the mist and the woman's movements indicated that the crystal ball condensed by the mist should be ready to be picked. Gray's eyes also lit up, and he blocked the woman, not letting her get close to the misty plant. Boom! The king beast blocked the woman's path, and its huge fist smashed towards the woman. Go away! The woman snorted coldly, and the golden blade in front of her shot out golden shadows. The king beast's huge body was sent flying backwards, and the woman continued to rush towards the misty plant. Crack, crack! Suddenly, a terrifying ice spread towards the woman, trying to freeze her in the ice. The golden blade in front of the woman slashed out, and the river of ice was cut in half. Whoosh, whoosh! Gray used the blood-red spear to increase the power of the black mist vortex, and its power was at the level of the king, and attacked the woman. Before the golden blade could turn back, the woman's fist was covered in golden light, and she punched the black mist vortex. Boom! Under the woman's punch, the black mist vortex exploded, but the woman was also pushed back by the explosion, and the distance between her and the crystal ball increased. Whoosh! A figure rushed towards the misty plant like a phantom, and it was Stanley Grinton. Gray, the Ice King Beast, and the Ice King Beast were responsible for stopping the woman, and his mission was to pick up the crystal ball. Stanley Grinton reached out and plucked the crystal ball from the misty plant. Patter! A crisp sound was heard, as if a fruit had been plucked from a tree, but it was not a fruit, but a crystal ball. Moreover, as the crystal ball was plucked, the misty plant collapsed and finally disappeared completely. Only the crystal ball in Stanley Grinton's hand proved that there had been a misty plant here. Chapter 512. Hand it over. Seeing the crystal ball being taken away by Stanley Grinton, the woman looked at Gray and said coldly, "In your dreams." Gray sneered. Something that grew naturally belonged to whoever got it. If the woman had not attacked him sneakily and negotiated with him nicely, he would have been able to give up the crystal ball. After all, she had found it first. Unfortunately, the woman had not done so. Instead, she had attacked him viciously. If it had not been for his strong defense, he would have been killed by her sneaky attack. There was no room for negotiation. Whoosh! In front of the woman, a golden blade shone brightly as it slashed towards Gray. Gray no longer cared about the loss of his blood power. He unleashed his king-level fighting power. The black fog vortex met the golden blade. At the same time, the Ice King Beast's ice ability blocked the golden blade. Bang! Under the interception of the black fog vortex and the ice ability, the golden blade was sent flying. It was not just the golden blade. Even the woman, who had wanted to approach, was blocked by the aftershock of the collision. Whoosh! Whoosh! Stanley Grinton and the King Beast returned to Gray's side. Gray touched the purple ring, and Stanley Grinton, the King Beast, and the crystal ball were sucked into the ring. Do you think you can run away? Seeing that Gray was planning to escape, the woman's face turned even colder. The golden blade in front of her shone even brighter. It turned into a giant golden blade again and slashed towards him. You can't stop me if I want to leave. Gray looked calm. He joined forces with the Ice King Beast and sent the golden blade flying again, stopping the woman. At this time, he had already met up with the Ice King Beast. He placed his hand on the King Beast. Whoosh! In the next moment, Gray and the Ice King Beast disappeared from where they were. They had used space teleportation. Now that he had become stronger, he was more familiar with space teleportation. Even if he faced a king-level powerhouse, he was confident that he could use space teleportation to escape. Bastard! Gray's figure disappeared, and only the woman was left on the damaged ground after the fierce battle. The woman's face was ashen, and she clenched her fists and gritted her teeth. Naturally, he could tell that Gray had used spatial teleportation just now, and understood that it was impossible to track down Gray. She had guarded this crystal ball for more than half a month, but she did not expect that it would be snatched away at the last moment. One could imagine the anger and unwillingness in her heart. After using spatial teleportation several times, Gray returned to the forest where he usually cultivated. He placed the Ice Soul King beast in the forest. He decided that, barring any special circumstances, the Ice Soul King beast would stay there. This place was not far from the castle. If the castle was attacked, the Ice Soul King beast could immediately rush over to help. I'm afraid that woman can easily find out about me. In the battle with the woman, Gray had used all his means. In addition to his fame in the Purple Moon Kingdom, the woman only needed to ask around a little to find out who he was. He could not help but worry that the woman who had her crystal ball stolen would come looking for him. Fortunately, the woman's combat strength was not much of a threat to him. With her space teleportation, she could teleport away with the Fergus family at any time. I've got it. Gray's heart skipped a beat, and he had an idea. After his blood force recovered, he used space teleportation. After a few teleportations, he arrived at the Imperial City. He hid the matter of the crystal ball and reported the woman's situation to the royal family. Because they had infiltrated the Purple Moon Kingdom's palace and attempted to steal, this organization had been blacklisted by the Purple Moon Kingdom's royal family. The Purple Moon Kingdom's royal family had been searching for this organization for a long time. However, because they did not know the faces of these people, it was difficult to find them. Now, the information that Gray provided could be said to be what the Purple Moon Kingdom's royal family needed the most. With the help of a painter, Gray drew the woman's face. Originally, it was quite difficult to restore the woman's appearance to a recognizable state through oral description. However, the woman's characteristics were very obvious. The beauty mole at the corner of her mouth was very conspicuous and very recognizable. If they met, it would be easy to recognize her. Gray did not stay in the Imperial City for long and directly left. With the Purple Moon Kingdom's royal family watching over him, it would be very difficult for the woman to find trouble with him. On the way back, Gray thought about the gains and losses of this battle. In this battle, the advantages and disadvantages of the corpse controlling ability and the resurrection ability were undoubtedly revealed. The advantage of the corpse controlling ability was that the controlled target could be placed in the purple ring and carried around. The disadvantage was that the controlled target could only display its full combat strength if the controlled target was a flesh-type blood fiend. Also, the controlled target did not have intelligence and only had some combat instincts. Controlling them was like controlling a puppet. The advantage of the resurrection ability was that the revived target had intelligence. Even if it was not a flesh-type blood fiend, it could still display its full combat strength. The disadvantage was that it was not convenient to carry around. This was especially so for a gigantic king beast like the Ice Soul King beast. It was very inconvenient to carry it around and could not be used as a fighting force at any time. Another point was that if the revived target was a blood fiend, magical weapons could not be used. After understanding all these, Gray came to a conclusion. The corpse controlling abilities target should be a flesh-type king beast, while the resurrection abilities target should be a king-level warrior. As the corpse controlling abilities target could be placed in the purple ring and carried around, its size did not matter too much. Moreover, until now, he had not seen anyone who cultivated purely flesh-type blood techniques. Therefore, the best choice was a flesh-type king beast. As for the resurrection ability, the controlled target could not be carried around. In order to not attract attention, it had to be as small as possible. King-level warriors were the most suitable targets. Most importantly, only humans could use magical weapons. Of course, he would not inhumanely hunt down king-level warriors who had no enmity with him just to make up for the lack of the resurrection ability. He would only hunt down king-level warriors who had a grudge with him, such as the king of assassins. This was the most basic principle. As a sane human, this was the bottom line. Gray would not allow himself to violate this principle. After passing through Mercenary City and arriving at the Storm Mercenary Group, Gray instructed Storm Mercenary Group's leader, Marlowe Sidney. Do your best to search for flesh-type king beast. Yes, sir. Marlowe Sidney replied respectfully. The benefits of having a force of his own were obvious at this time. He only needed to give the order, and there would be many people running around for him. He only needed to be the last to act when he found the target. This was much more efficient than searching for the target alone. Also, be on the lookout for spirit-type king beasts and those with the ability to control corpses. After thinking for a while, Gray added, his current ability to control corpses and spirits was only at the desolate level. There was still king-level king beasts above them. If he could find one, Gray naturally would not miss it. After finishing all this, Gray returned to the Fergus family. Only then did he have the time to check his harvest. It was a crystal ball that he had plucked from a misty plant. Gray opened the crystal ball in his palm and examined it carefully. It was a crystal ball about the size of a baby's fist. The crystal ball was transparent, but there was some mist inside. The mist constantly changed its shape. Sometimes it was like a beast, sometimes it was like a mountain, sometimes it was like a plant. It was magnificent. If it were bigger and placed in the living room, it would definitely be a beautiful piece of art. However, if a king-level king beast wanted it, it could not be as simple as a piece of art. Gray knocked on it with his hand. Although it grew on a tree, the texture was rather hard. It did not seem edible. Could this be a magic weapon? Gray tried to infuse some of his blood force into the crystal ball after guessing that it was a magic weapon. Whoosh! The power of blood easily penetrated into the crystal ball. Then, the mist in the crystal ball began to fluctuate unnaturally. Then, Gray realized that the mist was spreading out from the crystal ball. It covered a radius of tens of meters around him. However, the strange thing was that he could easily see in front of him in the mist. Moreover, the spirit spiderwebs would automatically avoid him when they encountered him. After some testing, Gray had a rough understanding of the crystal ball. It was indeed a magic weapon. Although it was very strange, it was not made by a master craftsman. Instead, it was formed from a tree condensed from mist. The mist of this magic weapon could at most cover a radius of a few kilometers. Within this range, all living things except Gray would be affected. Even the Ice Soul King beast was no exception. After being affected, it would also be difficult to determine its direction. Now that he thought about it, the woman was able to enter the mist. She probably had a method like him to resist the spirit spiderweb's invasion. In the depths of the endless ice field, snow and ice covered the land. There were many powerful blood fiends. Here, desolate-level blood fiends were very common. From time to time, one could even encounter king-level blood fiends. It was the most dangerous place in the entire continent. Back then, Gray and the others had been able to enter the depths of the endless ice fields because a group of king-level experts had cleared the area. Even so, there were still people who had died at the hands of the blood fiends. It was clear how dangerous the endless ice fields were. Boom! On this day, in the endless ice field, near the direction of the Purple Moon Kingdom, a terrifying aura spread out. All the blood fiends within a few kilometers could feel it. Feeling this strong pressure, the blood fiends fled in panic, staying far away from it. At the center of the aura was a giant beast that was more than 10 meters long. It was a blood fiend covered in green fur. Its body was slender and muscular. It had a beautiful curve and did not look bloated. It was a king-level blood fiend, the Howling Wind Beast. Crack! Suddenly, a crisp sound was heard. The king-level blood fiend, Howling Wind Beast, suddenly collapsed. From within the collapsed Howling Wind Beast, a bearded figure appeared. It was an old man. His face was extremely old, but his eyes were extremely sharp. They were so sharp that one could not bear to look at them directly. I thought I had no more chances. Who would have thought that I would have such an opportunity? Feeling that he had indeed advanced to king level, he was excited. Since a few months ago, the endless ice field had become strange. Some precious magic herbs would appear from time to time. Not long ago, He was lucky enough to obtain a precious magic fruit. After consuming it, he leaped to king level. Although there are indeed opportunities in the endless ice field, it's strange that they keep appearing. Forget it. I'll go back to my family first. I haven't been back for a few years. He walked in the void. A few nights later, he entered a castle. This castle was the Nahum family's castle. Chapter 5:13. Lord Barnet. It's Lord Barnet. Lord Barnet has returned. A Nahum family elder said excitedly. Lord Barnet, could it be that you've already? A Nahum family elder asked expectantly. After receiving a positive answer from Barnet, the Nahum family was filled with excitement. In the past year, the Nahum family had been suppressed by Gray, and it could be said that they had been very sullen. Now that a king-class expert had appeared in the family, they could finally sweep away their previous depression. What happened in the family? Barnet asked, seeing that many of the family's upper echelons were happy yet angry. Lord Barnet, you must avenge us. Poor Warner, you even hugged him when he was young, but he was cruelly killed by Gray Fergus. The Nahum family's upper echelons all talked at once, revealing the grudge between Gray and the Nahum family. A desolate blood warrior actually dares to bully my Nahum family. My anger won't be appeased until he's dead. After listening to the embellished story of the grudge between Gray and the Nahum family, Barnet flew into a rage. Lord Barnet, this matter needs to be considered at length. The royal family now values this Gray Fergus very much. If the royal family finds out that it was you who did it, even you will be severely punished. The Nahum family head hurriedly said. You mean? Barnet Naim looked at the patriarch of the Naim family and asked. Of course we have to take revenge, but we can't be too ostentatious. It's best if we can do it in a remote place and not leave any evidence. This way, even if the royal family has suspicions, they won't take their anger out on you without evidence. The Nahum family head said with hatred in his eyes. Not long after, the Nahum family's intelligence network, which had been rooted in the Purple Moon Kingdom for hundreds of years, began to operate. Spies began to appear in Fergus City and began to pay attention to Gray's movements. They also reported Gray's movements to the Nahum family. Near Fergus Castle, in the forest where Gray was training. Standing in the open space, Gray, who seemed to be resting with his eyes closed, suddenly underwent a change. His body was expanding at a speed visible to the naked eye. Under this violent expansion, the clothes on his body were torn apart. His originally slender body had become extremely burly, giving off the feeling of a muscular man. Boom! It was as if a giant beast had awakened. A violent aura burst out from his body and spread in all directions. In the forest, all the wild beasts became frightened, all of them crawling on the ground, trembling. After eating the food delivered by the castle servants, the Ice Soul King beast, who had been sleeping soundly, stood up and looked cautiously in the direction of the violent aura. Only when it sensed a familiar aura from the violent aura did it let down its guard and lay down again to continue its beautiful sleep. After a while, the violent aura disappeared. Gray's body shrunk and returned to his previous slender and lean appearance. After spending more than half a year, I've finally cultivated the blood skill Berserk to the first stage. Gray heaved a long sigh of relief. The violent aura and burly state that he had been in just now was a sign that he had cultivated the blood skill Berserk to the first stage. In this state, Gray's strength, speed, defense, and even the power of his blood fiends would be greatly increased. On the other hand, Gray's blood power would be depleted at an extremely fast rate in this state. To a certain extent, a blood skill was a method to increase one's strength for a short period of time by depleting a large amount of blood power. Apart from a few exceptions, this was applicable to most blood skills. Although there was a drawback of a long duration, no one would not want to obtain a blood skill. In a battle, even if one could only unleash one attack, it could completely change the outcome of the battle and determine life and death. Moreover, although the duration of a blood skill was short, it was definitely not limited to one attack. As for Kotick Blaze and the others who had fought Gray, They could only unleash one attack because their blood skills were incomplete and the price to pay was much higher than a complete blood skill. If they had mastered a complete blood skill, the one who would have died would not have been them, but Gray. Cultivating the first stage in half a year, I don't know if this speed is considered fast or slow. As there was no comparison and he had to explore on his own, Gray did not know how talented he was in cultivating blood skills after cultivating the first stage in half a year. Of course, although he was concerned about this, he would not take it too seriously. With the ability to transform, even if his comprehension was poor, he still had a way to become stronger. Although blood skills were beneficial to him, they were not necessary. After changing his clothes, Gray thought of another matter. I can't believe I haven't found a corporeal king-level blood fiend after half a year. It had been half a year since he had ordered the Storm Mercenary Group to search for a corporeal king-level blood fiend. However, in this half a year, there was no news of a corporeal king-level blood fiend. The Storm Mercenary Group, which was completely under his control, naturally could not be idle. The only possibility was that they could not find one. Corporeal king-level blood fiends are really rare. Gray knew that corporeal king-level blood fiends were extremely rare, but he did not expect them to be so rare that they could not find one in half a year. Sir Gray. At this moment, a voice sounded in Gray's mind. It was a voice that was transmitted to him through the mental connection. It was a method of communication that only people who had been resurrected by him could use. However, it was not the news from the Storm Mercenary Group that he wanted to hear the most. Instead, it was the voice of the only desolate blood warrior in the team guarding Fergus Castle, Gao Defeng. "What is it?" Gray asked. "We've just captured a spy spying on the castle." Gao Defeng's voice sounded. "Spy?" Gray thought for a moment. Through the mental connection, he found out where the spy was and came to a remote house in Fergus Castle. Inside the house, there was Gao Defeng and a few castle guards. In addition, there was a short man about 1.6 meters tall. The man was tied to a metal pole in a cross shape, unable to move. There were bloodstains on his body from whips. Evidently, he had been interrogated before this. Sir, I'm not a spy. I'm really not a spy. I just happened to pass by Fergus City." The short man was in so much pain that he was twitching, but he was very stubborn and looked like a frightened, ordinary person. However, he did not know that Gao Defeng and the others had once belonged to the Flame Kingdom's Flamefawn. In terms of concealment and disguise, they were much better than the other party. In the eyes of Gao Defeng and the others, his acting was full of flaws. "You don't want to talk?" Gray understood why Gao Defeng had informed him. "Fine, let me see what kind of force is still spying on me at this point." Gray's lips curled into a cold smile. Most of the Flame Kingdom's Flamefawn's forces in the Purple Moon Kingdom were under his control. If there were spies sent over, there was no way he would not have been notified. He was a little curious as to what kind of force was spying on him. Asterisk crack. Asterisk after breaking the short man's neck and killing him, Gray instantly appeared in a forest while carrying him. He used his resurrection ability, and the short man's injuries were instantly healed and revived. "Which force sent you?" Gray asked. "Sir, the Nahum family sent me." The short man was no longer as stubborn as before and said respectfully, "The Nahum family?" Gray's expression was a little strange. Even now, the Nahum family still dared to provoke him. Originally, he had considered whether to kill the upper echelons of the Nahum family or not. However, there were some who did not think highly of the Nahum family's strength. That was why he did not make a move. Now, they actually took the initiative to provoke him. The other party had sent a spy to investigate. It was obvious that they did not have good intentions. "Why did they send you?" Gray asked with a cold look in his eyes. "Keep an eye on your movements, sir. If you leave the Fergus Castle, inform the family immediately." The short man said truthfully, "Keep an eye on my movements?" Gray's smile widened. The Nahum family had sent someone to keep an eye on his movements. Once he left the Fergus Castle, they would immediately report to him. Their intention was self-evident. They were obviously preparing to attack him. When did the Nahum family become so confident? Obviously, the Nahum family must have some kind of confidence and felt that they had the ability to deal with him. That was why they were so impatient. Has anything happened to the Nahum family recently? Gray asked after thinking for a while. Sir, I'm only in charge of scouting outside. I don't have any contact with the Nahum family, so I don't know. The short man said. Seeing that he could not get anything out of him, Gray let the short man go back and continue to do things as usual. Meanwhile, he was deep in thought. I'm afraid the Nahum family has a king-level expert. Although he did not ask why the Nahum family was so confident, Gray could roughly guess. With the strength he had shown to the outside world, even a third-level desolate level with a silver weapon would not have absolute confidence in killing him. If the Nahum family dared to attack him, it was very likely that they had a king-level helper. However, he did not know if this helper was from the Nahum family itself, or if it was not from the Nahum family. But they had made some kind of deal. Since the Nahum family wants to attack me, I'll give them a chance. After all, the resurrection ability needs a king-level warrior. After thinking for a while, Gray made up his mind. His eyes were cold. Since the other party wanted to attack him when he was out, he would create an opportunity for them. With spatial teleportation, even if he was not a match, he could easily escape. Moreover, with his current strength, he was not afraid of regular king-level experts. There was still a gap in the resurrection ability. This was the time when he needed a king-level warrior. Since this possible king-level warrior wanted to kill him, he would not be polite. Chapter 514. A few days later, in the morning, Gray flapped his dark green wings and flew away from Fergus Castle. Gray Fergus has left Fergus Castle. Quick, report this to the family. In Fergus City, the hidden spies of the Nahum family began to move. News of Gray's departure from Fergus Castle was spread to the Nahum family through various channels. Flying at a low altitude, Gray entered the Ironstone Forest after purchasing some outdoor camping supplies in a small town a day later. The Ironstone Forest was one of the few large forests in the Purple Moon Kingdom. It was famous for its abundance of ironstone. This type of ironstone was extremely hard, almost as hard as steel. It was a high-grade construction material on par with bronze, and was highly favored by large noble families. Because it was easily attacked by blood fiends, mining this type of ironstone was extremely dangerous. Adding to the fact that it was difficult to transport, the price of this type of ironstone was extremely high on the market. Even so, many large families were still scrambling for it. Lord Barnet, Gray Fergus has left the Fergus family and entered the Ironstone Forest. As a duke's family, the Nahum family had spies in many places. In order to keep an eye on Gray, the Nahum family had placed spies around Fergus City. Gray's low-altitude flight made things convenient for the Nahum family. Gray's figure was discovered from time to time. Soon, the news of Gray entering the Ironstone Forest reached the Nahum family. The Ironstone Forest. Hearing Gray's location, Barnet Nahum stood up and sneered. The Ironstone Forest was a forest that wasn't dense with vegetation. Barren stone mountains could be seen from time to time in the forest. Some of the stone mountains even had traces of mining. Those were traces of ironstone mining. After entering the Ironstone Forest, Gray went deeper in and finally arrived near a large stone mountain in the depths of the Ironstone Forest. There was no vegetation around the stone mountain. If one looked down from the sky, everything on the ground would be revealed. Around the stone mountain, there were several huge man-made caves, which were traces of iron and stone mining. After arriving here, Gray began to hunt blood fiends with the stone mountain as the center. In the past 6 months, Gray hadn't gone out much. His meat was almost depleted. He could use this opportunity to hunt some blood fiends and replenish his reserves. After searching for a while, Gray found his target. On a grassland, an 8-meter-long blood fiend was leisurely eating grass. Its fur was greenish-black and very fluffy. Its body looked extremely bloated, and its torso was like an inflated balloon. Its head was like a sheep's, with 2 curved horns on its head and 4 hoofed legs. Compared to its body, it was slightly slender. This was a desolate-level blood beast, the hurricane sheep. It was not a special blood beast, but an ordinary blood beast. It could be said that it was the weakest type of desolate-level blood beast. According to custom, the 4 great kingdoms liked to refer to those who cultivated special blood techniques and had just entered the desolate level as the first level of the desolate level. However, strictly speaking, this should be called the second level of the desolate level because there was an even weaker level before them, which was the ordinary desolate level blood beast. If one were to count from the lowest level, there were a total of 4 levels in the desolate level. One had to undergo a total of 3 transformations to reach the king level. However, those who could cultivate to the desolate level would have powerful blood techniques. It was almost impossible for them to cultivate ordinary blood techniques. Over time, this level was automatically ignored. Although mutton smells like mutton, it's still very delicious if it's handled well. With Gray's current strength, it was naturally not too difficult to kill an ordinary desolate level blood beast. Whoosh! A wind blade more than 10 meters long shot out in front of him and slashed towards the hurricane sheep. The hurricane sheep dodged in fear, but before it could dodge, the wind blade had already cut into its body. Poof! Its huge body was almost split in half, and it died on the spot. Gray skillfully collected the blood and stored the hurricane sheep in his purple ring. 2 days later, Gray appeared in a place more than 10 miles south of the Stone Mountain. Here, stone mountains could be seen everywhere. The ground was also made of stone. The stone was dark red in color, as if it had been stained with blood. Sparse plants grew out from the cracks between the stones. They were all plants with strong vitality. Plants that were too delicate could not survive here. That is, on the cliff of one of the stone mountains, a plant attracted Gray's attention. It was a plant that looked like an old tree root. It was dark red in color and had a winding trunk. It was as strong as a dragon, and the old skin on its surface looked like dragon scales. It's a blood dragon root. Gray's face lit up with joy. The blood dragon root was a very rare magic herb. It was rumored that it could only grow in places that were soaked in the blood of dragons above the king tier. Dragons had a long lifespan. The lifespan of dragons above the king tier could reach thousands of years. The blood dragon root nourished by their blood had the effect of prolonging lifespan. It was very precious. When Gray and the Redwing went to hunt the corpse hair ape, they had encountered it at a stall in a small town near the Thunder Mountain Range. However, it was not a real blood dragon root, but the root of a mangrove. However, it was obviously not a mangrove root, but a real blood dragon root. Because it was different from a mangrove root, it had old skin that looked like scales on its surface. A pair of dark green wings grew out of his back. Gray flew up the cliff and came close to the blood dragon root. The blood dragon root grew in a crack in the stone. It had no leaves, only a trunk. It really looked like a tree root. That was why people used mangrove roots to impersonate the blood dragon root. Gray stretched out his hand toward the blood dragon root. His hands were now harder than steel, so he did not need any tools to dig out the blood dragon root from the stone. Hiss! Suddenly, a strange sound was heard. A yellow snake's head sprang out from the rock wall. It opened its huge mouth that was big enough to swallow Gray whole and bit at Gray. Generally speaking, the more precious the magic herbs were, the more powerful the blood fiends would guard them. They would guard the magic herbs, and when the time was right, they would swallow the magic herbs. The blood dragon root had the effect of prolonging lifespan for humans, so it was naturally the same for blood fiends. This giant snake used the earth escape ability to burrow into the earth and rocks. As a result, Gray, who had infrared perception, was unable to discover the other party hiding in the stone mountain. Oomph! The sudden appearance of the giant snake did indeed startle Gray. However, with Gray's current strength, there were not many who could sneak up on him, even if it was a sneak attack. Flying in the air, Gray moved slightly to the side. He had already avoided the bite of the snake's head and appeared at the position of the giant snake's body. Puff! The magic sword at his waist was unsheathed. It was wrapped in black mist and became a few meters long. It cut through the giant snake's body as if it was tofu. The giant snake's head fell to the ground and blood spurted from its torso. Half of its body was embedded in the rock, and it could only struggle weakly. Gray didn't want the snake's head. He put away the giant snake's torso and went to the side of the blood dragon root. He inserted his hands into the rock and carefully dug out the blood dragon root. It's actually 3 feet long. Seeing the length of the blood dragon root in his hand, Gray's face was filled with joy. The growth of the blood dragon root was extremely slow. It would take 100 years to grow 1 foot long. A 3-foot-long blood dragon root was about 300 years old. It could be used to extend one's lifespan by 50 years. Gray didn't need it. After all, he was not far from becoming a king. Once he became a king, he would have a long lifespan of 300 years. He wouldn't have to worry about this problem at all. However, the Fergus family needed it. They didn't have Gray's talent, so it was almost impossible for them to become a king in the future. If they wanted to live longer, magic herbs that could extend their lifespan were essential. The blood dragon root is really good stuff. I didn't think there would be such an unexpected harvest. Just as Gray was about to put the blood dragon root into his purple ring, an old voice sounded out. Along with this voice, an old man walked out, exuding an intense pressure. The old man was Barnet Neem. Looking at the blood dragon root in Gray's hand, his eyes were full of passion. Having experienced the end of his life, his desire for life was far stronger than that of ordinary people. Although he was now a king and had a lifespan of nearly 300 years, he definitely wouldn't complain that his lifespan was too long. A blood dragon root that could extend one's lifespan by 50 years was no less precious than an evolution herb in his eyes. He had come this time to kill Gray, but he didn't think that he would have such an unexpected harvest. "Who are you?" Calmly putting away the blood dragon root, Gray looked at the old man. Even though he felt the strong sense of pressure from the old man, his expression didn't change at all. As expected of someone favored by the royal family, you can still be so calm in such a situation. Barnet Neem looked at Gray with interest. At this time, he was no longer unshaven like before. His beard was neatly combed and tied into a small braid. He wasn't in a hurry to make a move against Gray, nor did he launch a sneak attack like he did at the beginning. In his opinion, with his strength as a king, dealing with a desolate blood warrior would be a piece of cake. Using a sneak attack would really damage his reputation. "It looks like you've come to kill me?" Gray wasn't in a hurry to make a move. He also looked at the old man with interest. Since he had chosen to lure the other party here, Gray had naturally made some preparations beforehand. The other party's lack of hurry to make a move was actually what he wanted. "There aren't many factions that have a grudge against me. The only one that would make a move against me is probably the Nahum family. I'm very curious. Are you a member of the Nahum family, or were you hired by the head of the Naim family? It looks like you still have some self-awareness. If you knew this would happen, you shouldn't have provoked the Nahum family. There are some families that you can't afford to provoke." Barnet Neem looked at Gray as if he was looking at a dead man. Chapter 5:15. Why hasn't Lord Barnet killed him yet? What's the hurry? With Lord Barnet's strength, there's no way he can survive. Let him live a little longer and feel the fear of death. Far away, the Nahum family's upper echelons, including the head of the family, were anxiously paying attention to Gray and Barnet's movements. This time, in order to kill Gray, the upper echelons of the Naim family had mobilized all of their forces. On the one hand, it was because Barnet Naim didn't know Gray and needed someone to identify him. On the other hand, it was because they hated Gray to the core and wanted to see him killed with their own eyes. Head of the family, have we investigated the attack on Gray Fergus? Judging from the traces at the scene, there should have been a king-level battle. Not all the Nahum family's upper echelons were full of confidence. They had long been numb to Gray's speed of improvement. One of the Nahum family's upper echelons asked worriedly. "It's been investigated. A third-level desolate level tried to assassinate him with a silver weapon, but he blocked it with a silver weapon." The head of the Nahum family said. "Silver weapon? How could he have a silver weapon?" The Nahum family's upper echelons were puzzled. How else could it be? The royal family must have lent it to him for self-defense. The royal family really values him. One of the Nahum family's upper echelons said sourly. "He actually has a silver weapon. Will he escape this time?" The Nahum family's upper echelons asked worriedly. "No, Lord Barnet is a king-level expert, and he also has a silver weapon. He's dead for sure this time." One of the Nahum family's upper echelons was full of confidence. "All right, it's time to send you on your way." Barnet Naim stared coldly at Gray, and a long sword appeared in his hand. It was a long sword with a green blade. The hilt and body of a long sword had black beast patterns, as if a giant beast was wrapped around the long sword. As soon as the long sword appeared, it emitted an extremely dangerous aura, which made one's hair stand on end. Obviously, this was a silver weapon. As a family that had once produced a king-class elite, the Nahum family had a silver weapon. But they didn't use it unless the family was on the brink of destruction or a new king-class elite was born. Now that he had become a king-class elite, he took out the sword. Woo-woo! Barnet Naim raised his long sword horizontally. A terrifying hurricane appeared and revolved around the long sword. A huge green whirlwind rushed out and attacked Gray. Wherever it passed, the earth and rocks were all crushed. The ground was filled with cracks that were tens of meters long. Large amounts of earth and rock dust were swept up, turning the originally green wind into a dark red color that resembled blood. With the help of the silver weapon, the combat power of a king was at the peak of the first level, although it could not reach the second level of the king. Woo-woo! A blood-red spear appeared in Gray's hand. The black fog was amplified by the blood-red spear and turned into a huge black whirlpool. It rushed towards the dark red whirlpool. Being targeted by a king-class attack, with his current speed, he had no other choice but to meet the attack head-on. Squeak, squeak. Two whirlpools, one black and one red, collided between Gray and Barnet Naim. The center of the collision made a sound that made one's teeth ache. It was like two huge, rapidly rotating millstones grinding against each other. Gotcha! But in the next moment, with a crisp sound, the black whirlpool collapsed. The red whirlpool crashed into Gray's body with the remaining force, and Gray was immediately knocked back. The power of a third-level king-class elite with the help of a silver weapon was obviously not comparable to the power of a king-class elite with the help of a silver weapon. The power is comparable to a king-class elite. The weapon in your hand is indeed a silver weapon. Feeling the power of Gray's attack, Barnet Naim sneered. There was no trace of worry on his face. If a king-class elite could contend against a king-class elite with a silver weapon, then the king-class elite did not deserve to be called a king-class elite. A silver weapon in your hands is simply a waste. He suddenly stomped his feet, and a large number of cracks appeared on the stone ground under his feet. And he used the recoil force to rush out and pounce on Gray. Fast, so fast that one's eyes could not catch him. Because of the blood technique, after becoming a king-class elite, his speed was also among the fastest among the first-level king-class elites. Whoosh, whoosh. In front of Gray, Stanley Grinton and the King Beast appeared and went to meet Barnet Naim. Corpse control ability. Seeing Stanley Grinton and the King Beast suddenly appear, Barnet Naim was not surprised. He had already learned this from the Naim family head. He calmly slashed with his long sword. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A large number of green wind blades suddenly appeared and surged out, attacking Stanley Grinton and the King Beast from all directions. In the face of such dense green wind blades, the man and beast could only resist for a moment before they were sent flying. Stanley Grinton and the King Beast, who used to be Gray's strongest fighting force, were now somewhat unable to keep up with Gray's current level of fighting. In the face of a level 3 desolate grade blood beast, their combat strength could be said to be overwhelming. However, in the face of a king-grade blood beast, it was not enough. This was also the reason why Gray was eager to find a king-grade blood beast with a physical body. Woo-woo. Facing the rapidly approaching Barnet Naim, the black fog enhanced by Gray's spear turned into a wave and surged out, drowning Barnet Naim. Poof! Barnet Naim slashed vertically with his sword, and a huge green wind blade appeared. The black fog wave was immediately split in half and struck Gray, who was behind the fog wave. A long scratch appeared on Gray's clothes, and he was once again sent flying. On the rocky ground along the way, a scratch that extended for hundreds of meters could be clearly seen. Gray Fergus is completely suppressed by Lord Barnet. Seeing Barnet Naim so valiant that Gray could not block him even with a silver weapon, the Nahum family's upper echelons who were watching the battle from afar were all extremely excited. With Gray Fergus's level, he can't activate the silver weapon many times. This time, Grey Fergus will definitely die. Bear Naim of the Nahum family, who had the strength of a second-level desolation grade, said hatefully, "Look, that's—" Suddenly, one of the Nahum family's upper echelons looked in a certain direction in shock. He, who had always been good with words, suddenly stuttered. The other Nahum family's upper echelons followed his gaze, and they could not help but break out in cold sweat. 200 to 300 meters away from where Gray and Barnett Naim were fighting, a 10-meter-long giant beast covered in white scales appeared. The giant beast had intentionally suppressed its movements and used the huge rocks to hide its body. In addition, the huge commotion caused by the battle between Gray and Barnett Naim was so great that they did not discover the giant beast's appearance. "Lord Barnett, be careful." "Not good." "Quickly alert Lord Barnett." The Nahum family's upper echelons were anxious. A king-level blood beast was lurking in the battlefield, and no matter how one looked at it, it did not have good intentions. If they were not careful, even Lord Barnett, who had king-level battle prowess, would be injured. After all, it was a king-level blood beast. "No, the battle is too loud. I have to get closer so that Lord Barnett can hear it." Bear Naim of the Nahum family, who had the strength of a second-level desolation grade, quickly rushed toward the battlefield. Poof! At this moment, a huge water blade suddenly appeared and slashed Bear Naim. Bear Naim flew backward, a deep wound appearing on his body. Blood was almost gushing out. "Lord Baird, who's there?" The sudden attack caused the remaining members of the Nahum family to change their expressions. What shocked them even more was the strength displayed during the attack. Baird had the strength of a second-level desolation grade. To be able to injure him in one blow, even if it was a sneak attack, the attacker's strength would not be weaker than a second-level desolation grade. "Everyone, you should worry about yourselves." A voice sounded. Then, dozens of people rushed out and surrounded the Nahum family's upper echelons. Among these dozens of people, there were 3 elders leading them. Bear Naim was one of them who had attacked and injured him. "Who are you people?" The Nahum family's patriarch said in a deep voice with a grave expression. "The people who will kill you," Marlowe Sidney said with a cold expression. These dozens of people were the 3 snobbish elites who had once belonged to the Flaming Fong, but now belonged to Gray. In order to counterattack and kill his opponents, Gray had naturally made sufficient preparations. Temporarily transferring the elites of these 3 forces was one of the preparations. "Our Nahum family has a king-class expert. If you kill us, you won't live either." A Nahum family's upper echelon said sternly. "That depends on whether he can survive." Another elder among the 3 leaders said disdainfully. This was a slightly plump elder, the one who ran the caravan among the 3 third-level desolation grade experts. "Everyone here is a member of the Nahum family's upper echelons. If you die here, the royal family will definitely investigate thoroughly." The Nahum family's patriarch said in a deep voice, cold sweat sliding down his back. "Don't worry, the royal family won't investigate. Besides, we'll soon be companions." The last of the 3 third-level desolation grade experts, the leader of the bandit group, a rugged and valiant elder, sneered. The next moment, he pounced like a wolf into a flock of sheep, killing the Nahum family's upper echelons. The others did the same. This was an unequal battle. Facing 3 third-level desolation grade experts and a group of experts, 2 of the Nahum family's upper echelons were killed on the first contact. "Oh no, something's wrong." The commotion of the battle attracted Barnett Naim's attention. His expression changed, and just as he was hesitating whether or not to turn back to help, Kaka, terrifying ice suddenly appeared, and the surrounding world turned into a world of ice and snow. It was as if he had returned to the endless ice fields. In an instant, he was sealed in the ice, and the intense cold poured into his body. He felt as if his blood had frozen. The Ice Soul King Beast had launched a sneak attack, injuring and trapping Barnett Naim. This was Gray's second plan, the Ice Soul King Beast with king-class strength. Using spatial teleportation, he secretly sent the Ice Soul King Beast here and hid it in the cave of the first stone mountain. The reason why Gray was not in a hurry to attack Barnet Naim was to let him come. Chapter 516. Puff, puff, puff. Wind blades slashed at the ice around Barnet Naim. Finally, with a crack, Barnet Naim struggled out of the ice. His skin was purplish-green, which was caused by the cold air. What was more serious was that under the invasion of the cold air, he felt as if his body didn't belong to him anymore, and his movements had clearly become sluggish. Whoosh, whoosh. Just then, a black tornado appeared and slammed into him. With his body sluggish, he had no time to block or dodge, and was hit by the black tornado. Swish, 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 swish. Under the black tornado, his flesh seemed to be corroded and quickly disappeared. When the black tornado disappeared, many wounds had appeared on his body, and he was bleeding profusely. King-level blood beast. You actually have a king-level blood beast? His face twitching in pain, Barnet Naim was shocked. Even the Nahum family didn't have a king-level blood beast, yet the other party, a newly promoted earl with no background, actually had one. This was simply inconceivable to him. Only your Nahum family is allowed to have king-level warriors, but my Fergus family isn't allowed to have a king-level blood beast? Gray sneered disdainfully. You already knew that I was going to assassinate you. Barnet Naim's face was gloomy. The Nahum family had only received news that Gray had entered the Ironstone Forest alone. Now, a king-level blood beast had suddenly appeared. Putting aside how the other party could have a king-level blood beast, why did this king-level blood beast happen to appear in the Ironstone Forest? Although it could be explained as a coincidence, his intuition told him that this wasn't a coincidence. The other party had already calculated this. The other party had already known that he would come to assassinate him and had deliberately led him to the Ironstone Forest. Take a guess. Gray's lips curled into a playful smile. He commanded the Ice Soul King Beast, Stanley Grinton, and the King Beast to attack Barnet Naim. Whoosh! Stanley Grinton attacked Barnet Naim from the left, while the King Beast attacked Barnet Naim from the right. Barnet Naim burst out with a speed faster than the two of them, dodging their attacks. So what if there's a king-level blood fiend? After I kill you, a mere king-level blood fiend is no match for me. After his initial shock, Barnet Naim calmed down. Although the situation he was facing was troublesome, it wasn't like he had no chance of winning. King-level blood fiends couldn't use magic weapons, and their abilities weren't as powerful as his. Although Gray Fergus could rely on his silver weapon to temporarily unleash the power of a king-level blood fiend, it couldn't last long. Moreover, his opponent was far inferior to a king-level blood fiend in other aspects. As long as he could kill one of them first, victory would be his. As for who he would kill first, it was obvious that Gray, who was only relying on a magic weapon to unleash king-level combat power, would be the easiest to kill. Whoosh! He charged straight at Gray. Whoosh! 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 The Ice Soul King Beast activated its ice ability, and icicles several meters thick appeared out of thin air, smashing into the ground to block his path. Whoosh! Whoosh! Among the first-tier, king-level blood fiends, this was considered the top speed. Under the attack of the icicles, he quickly dodged left and right, and finally rushed out of the range of the icicles. At this time, regardless of whether it was Stanley Grinton, the King Beast, or the Ice Soul King Beast, they were all left behind. The situation had become one where he faced Gray alone. Whoosh! His speed exploded to the limit, and he quickly approached Gray, relying on a silver weapon. Although his opponent could display the power of a king-level blood fiend, his speed was definitely inferior. Close combat was his weakness. A sinister smile flashed across his face, and he changed directions several times, closing in on Gray. He appeared beside Gray and viciously slashed his sword at Gray's neck. On the long sword in his hand, a green light spread. King-level combat power was activated by a silver weapon, and this was an attack at the peak of first-tier Desolate level. Oomph! Gray's body was enveloped by Barnet Naim's pressure and killing intent. He snorted coldly, and there was no trace of fear on his face. As he snorted, a violent aura burst out from his body. His body expanded at a speed visible to the naked eye, and his height increased to more than 2 meters. From his original lean body, he became a fully built man. He had used the blood skill Berserk. Berserk was a blood skill that could greatly increase speed, power, defense, and Blood Fiend's abilities after it was activated. With the activation of this blood skill, Gray's third-tier Desolate level speed and power suddenly increased to King level. His defense, which even first-tier King level Blood Fiends would find difficult to damage, became even more powerful. The power of the Black Fog, which was already at the peak of third-tier Desolate level, suddenly increased to the peak of first-tier King level. This was not the end. The silver weapon once again increased the power of the Black Fog. In an instant, the power was almost enough to touch second-tier Desolate level. Gray didn't even try to dodge Barnet Naeem's sword that was slashing at his neck. Gray's spear, carrying a terrifying Black Fog, stabbed straight at Barnet Naeem's chest. Clang! The sword that slashed at Gray's neck emitted sparks. Gray's defense, which had been strengthened by Berserk, blocked Barnet Naeem's sword without any damage. At the same time, just as the sword slashed at Gray's neck, the spear in Gray's hand stabbed at Barnet Naeem's chest. Poof! Unlike Gray's neck, which was unharmed, Gray's spear still pierced in, although it encountered obstruction. Crack! There was a crisp sound of bones shattering. The spear continued to stab forward, stabbing into an organ that was violently pulsating, and the organ exploded on the spot. Bang! Everything happened in the blink of an eye. The two figures collided in an instant, and then flew backward in an instant. They were both attacked by each other and knocked back repeatedly. A large number of rocks were smashed by the two of them, and even some of the lower hills were smashed into pieces. Clang! Gray, who had dispelled Berserk, stood up. Although his body was covered in red gravel and powder, he was not injured. Of course, the clothes on his upper body were completely gone. They were already tattered, and under the Berserk from before, they were completely shredded. Whoosh! With a few flashes, Gray appeared in front of Barnet Naeem. Barnet Naeem's right hand was pressed against his heart, and he did not die immediately. As a King Stage powerhouse, his vitality was extremely strong. Even if his heart exploded, he would not die immediately. At this time, if there was any way to mend the other party's shattered heart, it was entirely possible that he could be saved. This was because the blood of a King-class expert had completely merged with his body. His life force was much stronger than other blood warriors. Blood skill. Hearing the commotion, Barnet Naeem raised his head with difficulty and looked at Gray in horror. As he spoke, blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. He did not expect the other party to have a blood skill as a trump card after a King Stage Blood Beast. Whether it was a King Stage Blood Beast or a blood skill, they were all things that the Nahum family did not have. Compared to the other party, the Nahum family was more like a family with no foundation. I didn't expect to be the one to die. He had a self-deprecating expression on his face. He came confidently and thought that the other party was an easy target to kill. He did not expect to die at the hands of the person he could easily kill. This was the greatest mockery to him. From a moment the Nahum family was prepared to attack me, the outcome was already decided. Gray said calmly, even if he did not catch the Nahum family's spy, even if he did not know that the Nahum family wanted to attack him, Gray firmly believed that he would be the final winner. However, he was afraid that he would have to pay a price. The defense of a first-tier King Stage Blood Beast that was difficult to damage had already placed him in an invincible position. Coupled with the increase in combat strength from the blood skill Berserk, the possibility of Gray losing was extremely small. Let the Nahum family go. Cough, cough. If you exterminate the Nahum family, the royal family will never let you go. Barnet Naeem said with difficulty, you have no right to negotiate with me. However, don't worry. As long as I'm alive, the Nahum family will exist forever. Gray said with the corners of his mouth slightly raised. Barnet Naeem instinctively felt that this was a great humiliation, but waves of weakness came over him. His eyes rolled back and widened as he died unwillingly. Bring his body along. Gray ordered Stanley Grinton, who had already rushed over. Using his spiritual senses, Gray brought Barnet Naeem's body to where the Nahum family's higher-ups were. Lord Gray, a total of 9 people from the Nahum family who came with us this time have all been killed. Marlowe Sidney and the others came forward respectfully. Gray nodded and looked at the 9 corpses. Fresh blood dyed the dark red ground even darker. The 9 members of the Nahum family lay quietly on the ground. Many of them were old acquaintances of Gray. There was the patriarch of the Nahum family, Baird Nahum, who was at the 2nd level of the Desolate level, and 2 others at the 1st level of the Desolate level. These people were obviously the upper echelons of the Nahum family. If there were no surprises, everyone here should be one. What a mood, coming together to watch me get killed. Gray's voice was filled with mockery. The Nahum family's higher-ups had come in full force. Clearly, it was not as simple as identifying Barnet Naeem. They were obviously here to watch a good show. They probably thought that with the presence of the king-class warrior Barnet Naeem, victory was already in their hands. They wanted to watch him get killed, and in the end, they might even want to vent their anger by slashing him a few times. Take these people away. After giving the order, Gray walked straight into a forest. Using his resurrection ability, large swathes of the forest withered and disappeared. Half an hour later, all the higher-ups of the Nahum family, a total of 10 people, came back to life. However, they were no longer members of the Nahum family. Instead, they were people who were reborn because of Gray's ability. Their bodies were the same, but their souls were different. Chapter 5:17. What a good sword. Looking at the sword-type silver weapon's green body and beautiful black beast patterns, feeling the smooth touch of the hilt, Gray liked it more and more. Although the Crimson Spear was also a silver weapon, it was not as good as a sword-type weapon and could not be used to its best state. Only a sword-type weapon could bring out his strongest combat power. He returned the sword-type silver weapon to Barnet Naeem with some reluctance. This sword-type silver weapon could only be used to its full potential in the hands of Barnet Naeem. Now that Barnet Naeem was under his control, the stronger Barnet Naeem was, the stronger he would be. In terms of the optimal configuration, Barnet Naeem was the most suitable person to wield the sword-type silver weapon. Of course, this was only temporary. Barnet Naeem was only temporarily keeping it for him. When his strength surpassed Barnet Naeem, he would naturally ask for the sword-type weapon back. Go back and control the Nahum family. Clean up the people in the family who have strong hostility towards me. Gray coldly ordered the other Nahum family members, except for Barnet Naeem. As for Barnet Naeem, Gray did not intend to let him return to the Nahum family. Instead, he planned to keep him by his side. A king-level combatant, and a human at that, would not be as conspicuous as a king-level blood beast. He could be said to be the most suitable bodyguard, so he naturally had to keep him by his side. Yes, Lord Gray. More than half an hour ago, the 9 Nahum family members who hated Gray to the core were now extremely respectful in front of Gray. There was even a trace of fanaticism in their eyes, as if they were Gray's most loyal believers. Also, mobilize the Nahum family's strength and help me search for a physical king-level blood beast. After thinking about it, Gray ordered again. As one of the oldest families in the Purple Moon Kingdom, the Nahum family must have their own hunting team, which could be used. My lord, I know a place for physical king-level blood beasts. At this moment, Barnet Naeem took a step forward and said respectfully, "Oh, you know." Gray's face lit up. He hadn't expected that controlling Barnet Naeem would bring him such a pleasant surprise. He actually knew the location of a physical king-level blood fiend. This was practically a buy-one-get-one free deal. Yes, my lord. I have been searching for an opportunity to make a breakthrough in the endless ice field for the past few years. I once encountered a king-level blood fiend in the endless ice field. Barnet Naeem replied, "Very good." Gray nodded in satisfaction. After returning to Fergus Castle and making some preparations, Gray set off for the endless ice field. In the past few days, the situation of the Nahum family had been passed to Gray through special channels. The Nahum family had undergone a bloody purge. Anyone who harbored a strong hatred for Gray had been eliminated. This was necessary. Gray didn't want any of the forces under his control to have people who wanted to harm him at any time. It wasn't that he didn't want to use his resurrection ability to control these people, but the Nahum family was one of the oldest families. After developing for so long, their population had grown to a terrifying degree. It was simply impossible to completely control them, so he could only use a bloody purge. In the depths of the endless ice field, there was a world of ice and snow everywhere. As far as the eye could see, it was a vast expanse of whiteness. Gray and Barnet Neem, one with a pair of greenish-black wings on his back, flew in the air, while the other stepped on the void, causing ripples in the air as they hurried forward. There are blood fiends gathering. While flying, Gray suddenly discovered that there were dozens of blood fiends gathered in a valley. Generally speaking, blood fiends lived alone. It was obviously very unusual for dozens of blood fiends to gather together. Let's go take a look. Gray and Barnet Neem approached the valley and finally landed on a mountain peak of the valley. Looking into the valley, there were dozens of blood fiends of different species and different levels of strength. The strongest was at the desolate level, while the weakest was only at the mad level. They surrounded a plant, maintaining a distance from each other. They were restless and on guard against each other. This was a vine with long and narrow leaves, with a slightly sharp tip. The vines and leaves were the color of crystal, as if they were carved out of crystal. On the vine hung several ice-green fruits, each the size of a longan, emitting a faint fragrance. It's the ice fruit. Gray recognized this fruit. He had once seen it in the books in Sophia's library. This was a magic fruit that could increase one's strength. The effect of each fruit was comparable to the purple moon potion and the blazing flame potion. It was said that during the Empire, there was a magic potion that used this fruit as the main ingredient. The effect of this magic potion was several times stronger than the ice fruit alone. However, the formula for this magic potion had been lost. Drive away all the blood fiends. Gray ordered Barnet Neem. Barnet Neem responded and descended into the valley. A heavy pressure was emitted from his body, pressing down on the blood fiends. All the blood fiends became frightened, and even the desolate level blood fiends were no exception. They fled out of the valley, and soon all the blood fiends had disappeared. Gray landed in the valley and sized up the ice fruit at a close distance. A faint fragrance entered his nose, making him feel refreshed. It was obvious that these ice fruits were about to ripen, otherwise they would not emit such a fragrance. 5 ice fruits are equivalent to 5 bottles of purple moon potion. This is an unexpected gain. After half a year of consumption, Gray had used up all his blazing flame potions, leaving only 9 bottles of purple moon potions. Although he could still use them for half a year, Gray would not complain about having more of these things that could increase his strength. My lord, it looks like it will take another 3 days for them to ripen. Barnet Neem, who had driven away all the blood fiends, came over and sized up the ice fruit. 3 days? Have you encountered them before? Gray looked at Barnet Neem in surprise. To be able to so accurately determine the ripening time of the ice fruit, the other party must have a good understanding of the ice fruit. Yes, my lord. I encountered them once a few months ago. Barnet Neem said. You encountered them once a few months ago? Is it common to encounter magic plants like the ice fruit in this area? Gray was full of anticipation. No, it's just that in the past few months, magic plants have appeared more frequently. We can encounter them from time to time. Barnet Neem shook his head and explained. In the past few months? Yes, to be precise, it should have started 7 months ago. In the depths of the endless ice field, we can occasionally encounter magic plants. I was able to break through to king level because I obtained an extremely precious magic plant. 7 months ago, wasn't that when the endless ice field erupted with a beast tide, and when the spatial rift and that island appeared? Gray fell into deep thought. 7 months ago, a terrifying beast tide erupted in the direction of the endless ice field near the Scarlet Kingdom. Millions of people died in this beast tide, which was unprecedented in history. And the cause of this beast tide was a spatial rift that spread for thousands of miles and an island hidden in the spatial rift. Later, the spatial rift and the island disappeared, but the anomaly did not seem to have disappeared. The frequency of magic herbs appearing in the endless ice field actually increased. It's not just the endless ice field. The same situation seems to have occurred in other parts of the continent. Gray thought of the situation when he obtained the crystal ball. Originally, he wanted to hunt the Ice King beast, but he did not expect to encounter fog plants growing out of the soil, and had an unexpected harvest. Thinking about it carefully, this did not seem to be just luck. It was probably related to the anomaly in the world. The anomaly increased the probability of such an anomaly, which allowed Gray to have the opportunity to encounter it. The influence did not end with the disappearance of the spatial rift and the island. Since the spatial rift and the island had disappeared, it was reasonable to say that their influence should have disappeared as well. But now, it seemed that their influence had not disappeared and was instead continuing. Is it really because of the spatial rift and the island? Gray had a bold guess. Could there be such a situation where some anomaly triggered the spatial rift and the island, and the spatial rift and the island appeared under the influence of this anomaly? In the history of the Four Kingdoms, the spatial rift and the island had never appeared. Their sudden appearance was extremely strange. If it was really caused by some other anomaly, then what anomaly caused it? Gray frowned and thought hard, but the information he had was very limited. After thinking for a long time, he could not come up with a single clue. In the end, he could only helplessly give up. They stayed in the valley for 3 days. 3 days later, the ice fruit ripened. After picking the ice fruit, Gray and Barnett Naim continued on their journey. My lord, this is the place where we last found a physical, king-level blood fiend. Half a day later, Gray and Barnett Naim appeared near a continuous stretch of icebergs. This was the place where Barnett had found the physical, king-level blood fiend. When was the last time you found it? Gray asked. 5 months ago. Barnett Naim replied. 5 months? It's been too long, and the smell has already dissipated. Even the hunter's potion can't track it. Gray shook his head and gave up on the idea of using the hunter's potion to track it. With this place as the center, you and I will split up and search. The two of them split up, each in charge of searching in a direction. After searching for several days, they did not find the physical, king-level blood fiend. Several months had passed, and they did not know where it had wandered off to. One day, Gray landed on a mountaintop to rest temporarily. Suddenly, he saw an ox-type blood fiend, covered in white hair and about 7 to 8 meters long, appear from behind an iceberg and flee in all directions. Swish! The next moment, a huge white figure suddenly caught up with the ox-type blood fiend. Puff! Blood spurted out, and the ox-type blood fiend fell to the ground with blood gushing out of its throat. Beside it, a white blood beast appeared. A faint pressure emanated from the white blood beast. Chapter 5:18. The white blood beast was about 12 to 13 meters long. It had no hair or scales on its body. Although it was huge, its body was not bloated. On the contrary, it was slender. Its bulging muscles were streamlined and well-proportioned. The most eye-catching part was the sharp claws on its forelegs. Each of them was over 2 meters long and shone with a cold light. They looked like sharp blades embedded in its legs. It is indeed a king claw beast. Seeing this blood beast, Gray's face showed that he had expected it. From Barnett Naim, Gray learned the physical characteristics of the king-level blood fiend he was tracking. He found that this blood fiend was very similar to the description of a king-level blood fiend that he had read about in the book Physical Ability. Now that he had seen it with his own eyes, he immediately determined that this was indeed a king-level blood fiend. A king claw beast was a king-level blood beast. Its slender body contained terrifying speed and strength. Both could reach the peak of the same level. With such speed and strength, its combat power was not inferior to an elemental king-level blood beast. The sharp claws on its feet were extremely sharp. If an elemental king-level blood beast were to get close to it, it would almost certainly die. The king claw beast glanced in Gray's direction, but in the end, ignored Gray. It probably felt that Gray's size was not enough to fill the gap between its teeth, so it began to eat by itself. Puff! It stretched out its 2-meter-long claws and easily cut off a large piece of flesh from the ox-type blood beast's ribs. It chewed and swallowed it easily. The whole process of eating was very elegant. It was as if a skilled chef was holding a knife and cutting off pieces of meat from a roasted lamb. In just over 10 minutes, the ox-type blood beast, which was 7 to 8 meters long, was only left with a pile of bloody bones. All the flesh and blood went into the king claw beast's stomach. After finishing its meal, the king claw beast wiped its bloody claws in the snow. It glanced in Gray's direction and leisurely walked away. Whoosh! A pair of greenish-black wings appeared behind his back. Gray flew into the sky and followed behind the king claw beast. If he used a silver weapon or a blood skill, he would be able to reach the level of a king. However, he did not act immediately. Without the help of a king, he did not have full confidence. Most importantly, silver weapons and blood skills could not be used for long periods of time. If it was nighttime, he could manipulate the specter to kill the king beast. Unfortunately, it was daytime. Now, the best choice was to follow them and wait for Barnet Naim to join them. He had already summoned Barnet Naim through his psyche connection. He believed that Barnet Naim would arrive soon. Following the king claw beast, Gray climbed over a dozen icebergs and saw an iceberg with a dent on the side. Arriving here, the king claw beast laid down in the depression of the iceberg and rested. For blood fiends, the first thing to do after eating and drinking was to sleep. This king claw beast was no exception. More than an hour later, with the sound of air being torn apart, Barnet Naim arrived. Roar! The commotion caused by Barnet Naim's appearance alarmed the king-clawed beast. Sensing the suppression from Barnet Naim, the king-clawed beast got up and let out a threatening cry. Attack! Gray, who had been waiting impatiently, ordered Barnet Naim to attack. Woo-woo! A sword-shaped silver weapon appeared in Barnet Naim's hand. Above the sky, a huge green tornado appeared and attacked the king-claw beast on the ground. At the same time, Barnet Naim stepped into the void, creating a ripple in the air. He quickly approached the king-claw beast on the ground. Puff, puff, puff! The iceberg close to the king-claw beast was hundreds of meters high. Under the huge green tornado, it collapsed. Countless ice shards splashed, but there was no sign of the king claw beast. Before the green tornado fell, the king claw beast's figure turned into a white shadow and disappeared. It appeared hundreds of meters away, avoiding the green tornado. As a strength and speed-type blood fiend, the king claw beast's speed was obviously very fast. Whoosh! The king claw beast was very fast, but Barnet Naim wasn't slow either. The blood technique he cultivated wasn't just elemental blood technique. His speed could also reach the peak of the same realm. He wasn't any slower than the king claw beast. With a whistling sound, Barnet Naim quickly approached the king claw beast. The sword-shaped silver weapon in his hand was wrapped in green light. He slashed at the king claw beast's throat. Swish! Just as the long sword was about to cut the king claw beast's throat, the king claw beast's huge body suddenly twisted and appeared beside Barnet Naim. Its 2-meter-long sharp claws flickered with cold light. It quickly clawed at Barnet Naim. Puff! The sharp claws scratched the ice. 3 long cracks appeared on the ice, spreading out extremely far. Just as the king claw beast's sharp claws were about to grab Barnet Naim quickly moved dozens of meters to the side, avoiding the claw. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. This was a competition of speed. The man and beast with extreme speed were constantly dodging each other's attacks, and then waiting for an opportunity to attack each other. In a world of ice and snow, 2 figures, one big and one small, moved quickly. Wherever they passed, large and small pieces of ice splashed everywhere. Oomph! After a series of exchanges, Barnet Naim suddenly let out a cold snort. He slashed at the king claw beast with his sword. A large number of wind blades covered the sky and attacked the king claw beast. Puff, puff, puff! The sudden range of attacks caught the king claw beast off guard. Although the king claw beast's speed and agility were extremely high, the distance was too close. After continuously dodging and shattering many wind blades with its sharp claws, it finally couldn't completely dodge them. It was forced back by the wind blades, its body blooming with snowflakes. At this moment, Gray, who had been waiting for an opportunity to attack, moved. With the enhancement of the blood-colored spear, a huge black tornado swept towards the king claw beast that was forced back by the wind blades and couldn't control its body. Woo! Unable to dodge, the king claw beast was directly sucked into the black tornado. It let out an angry and mournful cry. When the black fog dissipated, a huge pit with a diameter of hundreds of meters appeared on the snowy ground. In the center of the huge pit, the king claw beast's body was badly mutilated. Fresh blood kept flowing out, and it looked extremely miserable. Obviously, it was heavily injured. As a physical king-level blood beast that was good at speed and strength, the king claw beast's defense was only average. After taking the enhancement of Gray's silver weapon, its power reached the peak of king level. It was inevitable that it would be heavily injured. Whoosh! Barnet Naeem appeared beside the heavily injured king claw beast. The sword wrapped in green light slashed at the king claw beast's throat. Feeling the threat of death, the king claw beast panicked and waved its sharp claws to block. Clang! The sharp claws and the green sword collided. But in the next moment, a huge force attacked the sharp claws. The sharp claws were shaken away, and the green sword continued to slash at the king claw beast's throat. With the enhancement of the silver weapon, the king claw beast's combat power was obviously stronger than the king claw beast's combat power. The king claw beast dodged in fear. But because of its injury, its legs were not as agile as before. It was still half a beat slower. Puff! The green sword slashed the king claw beast's throat. Blood immediately gushed out from its throat. Woo-woo! With its throat cut, the king claw beast let out a whimper. Crack, crack! Before its death, the king claw beast frantically attacked everything it could see. Under its sharp claws, huge cracks appeared on the icy ground one after another, spreading hundreds of meters away. Broken ice splashed everywhere. The power of each piece was like a cannonball. Wherever it hit, a large dent would be left. Barnet Naeem retreated into the air and quietly watched the king claw beast's dying struggle. After a few minutes, the king claw beast was completely dead. Gray landed and collected the blood. The process of killing the king claw beast was extremely smooth. It could be said that it did not take much effort. Unknowingly, his current combat power had reached the level where he could easily kill a king claw beast. Of course, the main force was Barnet Naeem. He only made one move during the entire battle. However, Barnet Naeem was resurrected because of his blood beast ability. He was completely under his control. Naturally, he was also part of his combat power. The third king claw beast. Using his ability to control corpses, the king claw beast stood up from the ground with wounds all over its body. Now, Gray had another king claw beast. Now, he had 3 king claw beasts. The Ice Soul King beast, Barnet Naeem, and now the king claw beast. Now, he was either a king claw beast or a king claw beast. Facing these 3 king claw beasts, ordinary king claw beasts were no match at all. Since I'm already here, let's go and take a look. The purpose of his trip to the endless ice field had been achieved. However, Gray did not plan to turn back. Instead, he planned to continue deeper into the endless ice field. According to Francis, the world barrier was located at the edge of the world. It was a barrier that enveloped the entire world. It was because of this barrier that the world they were in was isolated from other worlds. They were also trapped in this world, unable to leave. It was also because of this barrier that the world would not be invaded by external disasters. In fact, there were all kinds of disasters outside the world. For example, strong enemies from other worlds, disaster-level blood beasts that wandered outside the world, and all kinds of destructive natural disasters. Although the world barrier made it difficult for the people of this world to leave, it also protected the people of this world. Therefore, it was difficult to say whether the world barrier was good or bad. Swoosh, swoosh. They flew all the way into the depths of the endless ice field. After flying for more than 10 days, there was no road ahead. A pitch-black barrier appeared. This was an extremely exaggerated barrier. At a glance, one could not see the end of it. It stretched across the road ahead and extended to the sky. The entire barrier was extremely dark and deep. It was like an endless starry sky. However, there was no starlight. There was only darkness that seemed to be able to swallow people. Chapter 519. Is this the world barrier? Gray looked at the world barrier in front of him in shock. It was as black as ink and had a thick texture. It was definitely not material, but something like an energy barrier. It was this thing that had become a cage for king-level powerhouses and a protective umbrella for ordinary people. Do I really need to be at the magic light level to break it? Gray took out his blood-red spear, and the black fog's power increased. A black fog vortex appeared and hit the world barrier. Boom! The terrifying collision was like a wave crashing against a reef. The strong wind that was stirred up was like a sharp blade. Long cracks appeared on the ground that was covered in ice around them. When the black fog disappeared, the world barrier was revealed again. It was not damaged at all, and there was not even a ripple. Gray's attack had reached the king level, but it could not even shake the world barrier, let alone break it. Although it was only a first-tier king-level attack, it was enough to see how strong the world barrier was. It was no wonder that the kings felt despair and thought that only a magic light-level fighter could break the world barrier. Gray did not try again. Although he could use his blood skills, he did not need to try. He already knew the result. With his current power, he could not even shake the world barrier. Is there a natural loophole? A pair of greenish-black wings grew on his back. Gray flew around the world barrier, wanting to see if there was a natural loophole. After flying for a few hundred miles, he saw nothing but darkness. The giant world barrier stretched across the sky, and he could not see any loopholes. If there really is a natural loophole, then the kings who were trapped in this world would not be so desperate. Gray stopped. What he could think of was that the other kings had already thought of it. They had also searched for it, but in the end, they hadn't been able to find it. That was why a king like the Purple Thunder King had let out such an unwilling sigh. Let's go back. Gray shook his head and began to return. He had already seen the world barrier. Perhaps it was just as the Four Kingdoms had guessed. Only a magic light level fighter could break the world barrier and leave this world. Right now, he was still too far away from that level. The only thing he could be thankful for was that, with his hybrid ability, he didn't need to raise his realm to the Magic Light rank to possess Magic Light rank battle prowess. In the future, he might be able to break through the world barrier and leave this world. It had taken Gray more than 10 days to get here, but it only took him a few minutes to get back. He had left coordinates along the way, so he could easily leave the endless ice fields and return to Fergus Castle. Young Master Zaloyang and the others are here. After returning to the castle, Gray heard from the castle servants that Zaloyang and his siblings had come. He saw them in the garden. Bernal, Caroline, and Sarah were accompanying them. The atmosphere was pretty good, especially between Soroyan and Caroline. Gray could feel a subtle atmosphere, and he couldn't help but reveal a slight smile as he walked forward with a smile. When did you get here? I arrived 3 days ago, but I haven't seen you. What have you been up to? Zaloyang nodded at Gray. I made a trip to the endless ice fields. Gray sat at the side of the stone table. Immediately, a servant came forward to serve him his favorite hot milk tea. The endless ice fields? That place is extraordinarily dangerous. But with your strength, you do have the qualifications. Zaloyang sighed. How was it? Did you get anything? Not much, but I saw the world barrier. Gray said, World barrier? Is there really such a place? Polly was shocked. Zaloyang had told her about the world barrier when he heard about it from Francis, but she was skeptical about it. It was simply too unbelievable. Bernal, Caroline, Sarah, and the others couldn't help but be shocked. They had also heard about the world barrier from Gray. Yes, it is pitch black, like a wall with no end in sight. The world we live in now is really like a cage. No wonder some king-level powerhouses call this world a prison, said Yifutian. Gray sighed. Is it really as strong as His Highness Francis said? Only Magic Light rank powerhouses have a chance of breaking it? Bernal asked. It's even stronger than that. I used a silver weapon, but I couldn't shake it at all. I reckon that even Magic Light experts might not be able to break it. Gray nodded. Hearing Gray's words, everyone was shocked, but they weren't too dissatisfied. To them, the world was vast enough. Although they were curious about other worlds, they didn't crave them. Zaloyang and his siblings stayed in Fergus Castle for a few days before leaving. However, they didn't return to the royal capital, but instead went to Sydney City. The new Sydney Castle had been built and was located near Sydney City. From now on, the three of them would live in Sydney Castle. As for the threat from the rival Wallen family, it had been removed a long time ago. With Grey's deterrence, the Wallen family could only protect themselves. They wouldn't dare lay a hand on Zaloyang and his siblings. Over the past few days, Grey had clearly sensed that the atmosphere between Zaloyang and Caroline was different. He wasn't the only one who had sensed it. He believed that the others had sensed it as well. He was happy to see this. Although the Sydney family had declined, it was still the Marquis family. The annual taxes from the territory alone were enough to make this family more dignified than the average Count's family. Moreover, the Fergus family didn't need to consolidate their position through marriage. It wasn't worthwhile to sacrifice the happiness of the family members. It was best if the family members could pursue their own happiness. A few days later, it's almost time to swallow the blood. It had been more than half a year since the last time he swallowed the blood. During this time, with the assistance of magic potions, Grey's cultivation progress was extremely fast. Today he had reached the middle of the third round, which was enough for him to swallow the blood again. He took out the blood of the king beast, purple flame king beast, that he had prepared beforehand, and drank it in one gulp. His reaction was quick. Purple flames surged out and enveloped his entire body. He stood in the middle of the purple flames like a spirit of fire. Bursts of burning pain spread all over his body. Beads of sweat appeared, but before they could slide down, they were evaporated by the purple flames. The clothes on his body turned to ashes. Not only his clothes, but even his hair was also turned to ashes by the surging purple flames. After a long time, the purple flames disappeared completely and Grey's transformation was complete. After taking a bath and regrowing his hair, Grey used the space portal and appeared in the Red Leaves Forest. It was already late winter. The entire Red Leaves Forest was covered in snow. It was a vast expanse of white, similar to the endless ice fields. The only difference was that the ground of the endless ice fields was covered in ice, while the ground of the Red Leaves Forest was covered in snow. In order to unleash the full power of the three mixed abilities, I still need to swallow the blood of the Ice-type King Beast to improve my Ice-type bloodline. Now that I've swallowed the blood of the Purple Flame King Beast, I wonder how much power I can unleash. Without using a silver weapon or a magic weapon, Grey used his own strength to unleash the three mixed abilities. The black fog rolled out like waves, surging forward one after another. Along the way, the ground, the plants, the rocks, the slope, everything in the way was destroyed. When the black fog disappeared, a bare ground that was 700 to 800 meters long appeared in front of Lin Huang. The ground was flat and extended forward as if it had been polished by a craftsman. This was an extremely terrifying attack. If it had been a third-grade, desolate-level blood beast, this attack would have been enough to severely injure it. However, Grey could not help but shake his head slightly. It's still not enough. A King-class elite's attack was powerful enough to affect everything within 1,000 meters. Hansen's attack was within a range of 700 or 800 meters. It was very close to a King-class elite's attack, but it was still a bit off. It seems that I really need to consume the blood of the Ice-type King Beast before my combat power can rival that of a King-level powerhouse. Among the three mixed bloodlines, the Wind-type and Fire-type were already King-level bloodlines. Only the Ice-type bloodline had not been upgraded to King-level. It was because of this that his combat power could not rival that of a King-level powerhouse. No. When the time comes, I might surpass the first grade of a King-level powerhouse and reach the first metamorphosis. Grey suddenly realized that the next time he consumed the blood of a blood beast would be when he reached the third grade of a desolate-level powerhouse. By then, his three mixed abilities would be complete, and he would have reached the third grade of a desolate-level powerhouse. With the combination of the two, his combat power might surpass the first grade of a King-level powerhouse and reach the second grade of a King-level powerhouse. It'll be the new year in a week. After returning to Fergus Castle, Grey found that the servants were busy decorating the castle. Only then did he remember that it was almost a new year. I remember that the palace appeared on the first night after the new year. Gray thought of the palace that suddenly appeared in the red leaves forest. At the same time, he thought of the sword that seemed to be a divine weapon. He could not help but feel excited. I wonder if the sword has been repaired. The last time he saw the sword, the tip of the sword was still being repaired. Now that a few years had passed, could it have been repaired? I have to go and take a look. According to his original speculation, only king-level powerhouses and physical strength could reach the altar and obtain the sword. His physical strength was at the king level, and very few people in the first grade of a king-level powerhouse could match him. However, his physical strength was still lacking. He should not be able to reach the top of the altar. However, even if he could not do it himself, he had means to do it. For example, Stanley Grinton and Barnett Naeem, whose physical strength was no different from that of a king-level powerhouse, should be able to do it.